Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'll be your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, panelists Ian Hink, Michael Huber,
hello,
and my cybernetically enhanced co-moderator, Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
Samurai.
What'd you get done, Blood?
I don't know.
Still wearing glasses. Still wearing glasses.
Still
It's a bold choice.
There we go.
We're all of us cyborgs.
Distinguished guests, we are here to talk about some of the biggest headlines in the world of video games. But before we do that, we must answer for all of the mistakes that we made last week. Blood, please begin corrections music. Boop. Criterion is no longer just a support studio. They're now the main studio behind the Need for Speed franchise. When they announced crossplay for Need for Speed Heat, Matt Webster, general manager of Criterion Games, said, quote, "First, I wanted to let you know how excited our team here is here in Guildford to be back in the driver's seat of development of Need for Speed. As you know, we have a real history with racing and with Need for Speed. We're focused on bringing Criterion's unique point of view, unparalleled game feel, and high-quality innovations that will chart a new future for this wonderful series of games." And Universal Studio Orlando's version of Super Nintendo World has been delayed indefinitely. It was going to come in a couple years, but now they don't know. So... I'm assuming just like everything, it's probably just 1 year. They kind of bumped everything back. We're just going to scratch 2020 off the list. End corrections music, please. Shout out to Bloodworth, who that was him saying that it was a support studio, and he sent me the email with that information. So not only is Blood willing to own up to a correction.
Who corrects the corrector?
He's going to give me... yeah.
Well, somebody else did point it out, and then you just asked me about it, yeah.
Just checking in. I want to talk about some video game news. We just had the Game Awards, but before we do that... I want to talk about a silver lining in the world of video games. Our silver lining this week, something happy that we can appreciate, comes from Varun Kachwaha, who says, "The working practices of Supergiant," who took home a couple awards tonight. "Amid the crunch in so many studios, Supergiant Games put in place measures to actually stop it. No emails after 5 o'clock p.m. on Friday. Employees have to take 20 days off at least per year, so there isn't any unintentional pressure on them to work throughout the year. It's really heartwarming to see a studio care so much about its employees and make one of the games of the year. It shows crunch is not a necessary evil. It is a failure of efficient management." Shots fired.
Supergiant seems to be very efficient, too. They put games out, man.
Yeah. It's not like it takes a long time before they release games, and these games sell really well and get really good press and win awards. And so, yeah, it's fun to really see them make strides and show people how it's done.
We're going to have to put a time limit on our work days.
Maybe.
Every one of us is working till like
easy.
1 in the morning all the time.
Huber can hear you.
Oh.
Speaking of awards, we just watched the Game Awards. 3.5 hours. Many announcements, many awards. We're going to spend a lot of time. I mean, hey, if you guys want to spend time talking about all of the stuff, we can. I have it listed. But I am going to start with some of the biggest announcements of the evening and then get into some later stuff that if you guys want to touch on. Let's start off on a jolly note. Sephiroth announced for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Sephiroth.
Yeah.
One hell of a trailer.
Yeah.
A game neither Ian or I are passionate about, but hey, that's an exciting announcement.
Love me some Sephiroth.
An iconic fighter. Sephiroth is always timely, but especially now, Final Fantasy VII Remake year. It's just such a good fit. Definitely I feel like one of the most sought after characters to be brought into Smash. So this is just a win all around.
The trailer had so many amazing little, I don't know, nods, Easter eggs, whatever. But what I really love was the look on Cloud's face right when he realized who it was. Right toward the beginning, like after the big weird thing in the sky gets cut in half, Cloud's face is so good. He's just like, no.
I thought I was safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is, I feel like there's just something about the care and dedication they put into these reveals that makes it to where, like, yeah, you don't have to be a Smash Brothers fan. Like, they announce the character, it's just like, just getting that trailer is worth it.
Yeah. And the music.
So
yeah.
good.
I also,
and it's like Fortnite's given Smash a run for its money with like crossover characters, and like the Marvel event was cool because they would drop like weapons. So it's like, oh, Wolverine's in the game, but you can actually get his claws. But it's like still not to the level that Smash is on of bringing these characters in and having them feel exactly like their, their counterpart from the game they're actually from. So just excited to see him bust out Meteor and stuff. It's out of control.
Yeah.
I enjoy the hero-villain aspect of Smash Brothers. I like the King K rules in it now from Ultimate. I like that there are a lot of heroes that can face against their adversaries. But I was going to mention this Huber is another, we can jump straight to it. It was at the end of my big moment list, but we were talking during our live coverage about the potential rumors of a Nintendo character coming to Fortnite, because now not only do we have Kratos, which we didn't mention previously on this podcast, it was rumored. Kratos is now in Fortnite doing silly dances. Now Master Chief
Yes.
Yeah.
is in Fortnite. It does seem like Smash. I mean, Smash is getting to the end of their list, but it does seem like these two series are kind of competing together.
Yeah.
Smash called for Master Chief, and they were like, "We're on the phone with Epic right now." Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
and like
next year.
they added the Marvel weapons for those characters, and Mandalorian you can find his big rifle. So, like, are we gonna get to that point where if they bring in Samus or something, and one day we have just this giant battle where like Kratos can get the axe and Master Chief can get a freaking warthog, and Samus can do the ball roll. It's like, are we gonna get to that point where it's just like all these games living inside it? It's nuts.
Do they stay in the game indefinitely, or is it timed
They
event?
stay forever, but the Marvel weapons was like tied to the season. So like
okay.
you can be Wolverine now, but you can't like have the actual like weaponized claws. It's just like a pickaxe. It's not like an actual weapon.
I see.
One of the things I thought was interesting with that Master Chief announcement, Brandon, is, whether you care for the red versus blue humor or not, bringing them in to announce the Blood Gulch map being made by community members, like, it all just felt like there was a thought put into that, that like, okay, we're gonna do something that's like a community-driven thing to announce another thing that's a community-driven thing. And yet it's still all very like cool and important for Halo fans.
Yeah, and I like that they didn't just count on the community knowing that Keeley specifically said like this was something that was built by the community, because there is a lot of stuff that Epic is adding to that, and it's neat to see specifically the creator aspect of it, because that's something I have not put a lot of time into. The jokes maybe fell a little flat during that sequence, but I blame Ninja. Also,
Sephiroth. So hype.
It seems like on any other day, Daryl and Michonne from Walking Dead would have been a big thing, but it was kind of like an aside almost. It's like, oh, we're right,
Afterthought.
and this as well.
I don't know. I feel like something with the way like Walking Dead gets marketed to like no end. It never feels like a surprise. It's like Walking Dead is just going to show up sometime. If there's crossovers happening, Walking Dead's going to be there someday.
Yeah,
they just had Walking Dead Bridge Constructor or whatever. So
It feels like a weird time to do it. I feel like maybe they should have held off. I understand that Daryl falls into the category of hunter, but the final season will be debuting either next year or the year after. So I'm wondering if maybe it had been tied to that, if it would have been a little more hype. But just coming off of the heels of Master freaking Chief and Kratos,
Yeah.
that's a tough act to follow.
yeah.
Especially with gameplay potential, because it was interesting moment, Huber, seeing you struggle. You were like, you're like, oh, Master Chief will have, and you eventually came up with Warthog. I was
Warthog,
thinking
yeah,
Beam
yeah.
Sword
Sure.
would be his like default thing. Maybe a plasma grenade, sticky grenade. But that brings to mind something mechanically that can come to Fortnite that hasn't been in it before, whereas like crossbows and katanas, that's very Fortnite. That's I know specifically crossbows. Haven't played Battle Royale in a while, but they just seem very melee and ranged focused.
Totally.
But a lot of crazy, Mustard and the Fortnite team, they love those Game Awards. They're definitely going to show up and save some of their announcements for then. And it's It's like we just come straight out of one season ending, which is this huge event, into the other, which is a huge event, and then into
Right.
Just nonstop.
That's why it's interesting comparing something. This was also fun tonight, but not something I put like on the top of the list. But it was neat to see Fall Guys season 3. But like the ends of the season, I think that's like one of the biggest things that Fortnite is really does
Right.
that nobody else does. It's always like the beginning that's really even Call of Duty. We saw the beginning of the first season of Black Ops Cold War, but like there's not really that event that wraps up the end of something.
And the Sephiroth announcement, if I was next to you all, I would have been screaming. But Smash Online is not really something I engage with. I want to play
Right.
with you all locally. So any Smash announcement right now doesn't hit me as hard as if I was, in the studio with everyone and we're playing that.
I feel bad being done with the Game Awards and having BioWare make two big things. Two big, like one was like an announcement, I guess you can call it, in air quotes. And then the other was an update, a cinematic trailer, for these are two of their biggest franchises. And I personally am not very excited about either of these things. I didn't recognize, I recognized the face of the guy that's in the Dragon Age trailer, but having played 1 and 2 and a little bit of Inquisition, it just kind of seems standard fare, just compared to potentially like where it seems like Dragon Age might be a game that by the time we actually get it and it launches, like we'll never really have that big moment, that one moment where, oh my goodness, if you're not a huge fan. I see people on social media right now losing it over the new Mass Effect announcement. It's like, cool. I just, it seemed like way too early. Am I too harsh?
Yeah. It's interesting, because if you don't get that God of War level revival announcement, that's like, I feel like that's the peak of hype when you get this live gameplay reveal of this, revived franchise. If you don't get that, I feel like you get something like EA and BioWare do, just kind of these, here's a little teaser, see you in 4 years.
But it's like that the God of War one is the perfect example because like that's how you reveal a game. Like if I recall correctly, that was like a 6 or more minute just straight gameplay.
And it's like just wait for gameplay. Yes.
Right. There should be like a law. Like your game's not ready to be announced.
It should be a law.
If you can't but I mean like seriously, who are you kidding? If you're a game maker, it's like your game's not ready to show if it's literally not ready to show. Like, if you can't show your game, don't announce your game. Like, if you can't even
it's funny though,
see it.
because we were excited for God of War Ragnarok, right?
I'm excited for God of War Ragnarok. That trailer left me completely cold. But
we're excited for that because of God of War,
right.
And no other reason.
Right.
But it's an interesting parallel, that when Ragnarok showed up, like we saw logo and that was it.
Yeah. But I think these are both like two kind of different things. I mean, it's sort of related, because like Dragon Age has already had this, so they're just doing it again.
Yeah.
So
and Elder Scrolls
it's
as
insane.
well had this.
Right. Yeah. And so that's the thing is like Dragon Age and Elder Scrolls like really leaning in on like these teaser shots that cool, but they're not. It's like sometimes CG trailers like give you a really good idea for like what you're getting into, and I don't feel like that does. Like it just okay, this is the Dragon Age world, but I don't know what there is to be excited in this, right? About in this.
Well, sorry.
And then Mass Effect, I think, suffers from the fact that we just had the Dragon Age thing.
Right.
So that's the thing. It's like, well, Dragon Age isn't ready yet, so when the crap is Mass Effect going to be ready? I think that's the thing, is it feels like even though BioWare has all these separate teams to work on these things, it just feels like, well, Dragon Age is going to come first, and then Mass Effect is going to come afterwards. And if all they showed of Dragon Age is this vague teaser, then crap.
Right.
That and that was like a year ago that they showed a vague teaser. So
It's
it was
our
like
third trailer, our third Dragon Age trailer, no gameplay.
Yeah, it's
like,
just
And they've all been vague. Yeah, and it's just exactly. And like it's a funny thing because I wonder who it's for, And I think I have two thoughts on that because either it's for the shareholders just so that they understand that game development takes a long time and they know that there's a product on the way, and so that they can try to drum up some hype so that their stocks don't tank in between everything, maybe, whatever.
They got FIFA holding them up, though.
What?
FIFA's good. They don't have to worry about shareholders. They got FIFA.
Well, yeah, sure, but like, on the other hand is then I think about Cyberpunk, and it's like, they did the thing that I'm saying should be outlawed, which is, showed Cyberpunk, what, 6 years ago?
7. I think
It
it
was
was
7 years
They
ago?
showed
My God.
Cyberpunk when they inked the deal with Pondsmith. Like, there wasn't even
Right.
a thing to show. Like, they just
Yeah.
like,
Well, they had,
press
like, a
conference, here he
CG
is. We're going to do a Cyberpunk game. Yeah.
And they had a CG thing with the woman with the Manus blades, and it's just like, but we've seen over the years that the hype for Cyberpunk was astronomical at like insane levels. So it's like, is that the play? Like, are you trying to drum up fanatical hype over a multi-year period? Because like, for a company that their previous game was a big hit, like Witcher 3, I think that can work. If your
Right.
previous game was freaking Andromeda, don't show
Right.
your game until you can show your game.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Is that like as big as Mass Effect is, there's a lot of skepticism after Andromeda and
Yeah.
after the ending of Mass Effect 3. So it's
Like, I love Mass Effects 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Love. But, yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm just very conflicted because part of me, I love the acknowledgement. I love it that they're saying, "Yo, it's coming."
Also,
So for
Andromeda
me
was cut short.
personally, Yeah,
That's one of the like, despite like, yes, there are like bugs, yes, there are issues with that game, but because of the way that game performed, they basically just abandoned it. And so like, that doesn't make me feel in a good spot. Like, there were hints at things that were probably going to be DLC, and then they were just like, we're going to put that on hold and work on Anthem or whatever, and it's just like,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Anthem. I forgot entirely about the train wreck of Anthem.
As have others.
And didn't people just, like, leave, too, the company? Like,
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
yeah.
yeah, it just seems like rocky waters over at BioWare.
Well,
I think there's a very specific window when you can announce your game for maximum hype and also not 10 years too soon.
What's funny
know?
about it too,
Like, if gameplay was just around the corner for Mass Effect,
right?
but it just seems so far away that I put these announcements in, like, not even in my brain. They don't even occupy any real estate in there. So then
Yeah.
it makes the whole lead up to it kind of routine and muted. Because by removing it from my brain, I'm removing any kind of hype. So the next time it's shown, it's like, oh, okay, more Mass Effect instead of, the surprise reveal of it.
Yeah.
What I will say is at least they weren't dev diaries. Like, they've at least learned that much
They're listening.
Well, for now.
for now.
But no, the other thing that I think is really funny though is, we talked about the Need for Speed earlier, and what's weird is that EA does the opposite thing with Need for Speed. Like, Need for Speed, the last couple of times they've had those games, well, the last Heat in particular, they didn't even talk about that game at E3, that year before
Right.
it came out. Like, it was end of summer or something, and they're like, this is out in November, and I'm like, what? Excuse
remember
me? So, and obviously, like, they try to put out a Need for Speed game, either every year or every other year. But it's funny that they take that approach with Need for Speed, but something like Dragon Age or Mass Effect, which is going to be a long freaking time before that's ready. They're like, hey, we're going to show you right now. We're working on something. I'm like, we know you're going to work on something.
Is
it's
putting
like-
your announcement out like this free marketing, free advertising? Because you announce this Mass Effect and then you don't really need to show any more. They showed little, that CG trailer's so short. But now it's in the headlines, it's in the forums, it's on Reddit, people there's a conversation now. So do you think that's why they do it, just to get people talking now for the next year?
I personally think this will hurt the Mass
Right.
Effect 5 more than help because
It's
to me
bad
that was
press.
there. You know, it was like they knew the team was still together. Like when Casey left, he was like, I'm looking forward to the future of this franchise. Like I think if I grabbed a random Mass Effect fan on the street and said, do you think there'll be a Mass Effect 5? They would probably be like, yeah, I think so. You know,
I don't disagree.
I don't feel like it was a franchise like, well, that's totally dead. It was like they're working on something. And so it just seemed strange to me with all of the weird stuff happening within BioWare right now to like come out and be like, give us time. It's like, that's a lot of time. And now you're giving people an idea of what now you're like, just wait. And it's like, they're gonna have to wait a while as opposed to don't say anything.
I actually do think that that's the exact reason they did this because like I didn't read the article. I didn't read what the dude said when he left BioWare. I just heard he left, and I know that Andromeda failed, and I know that Anthem failed. So from my perspective, someone in the gaming sphere, I thought Mass Effect was dead forever. So people who are even less finger on the pulse than I am. Apparently in this situation I had my finger off the pulse, but like
Remaster's coming next year, so.
And the remaster, yeah, but that's an EA cash grab. Like, you know, like I'm excited for it, but that's what it is. And it's like I would have completely thought that I did think that Mass Effect was dead forever, and so like I would not be surprised if most people thought that. And now they don't. So there is that.
Yeah. Will Continue is an interesting subtitle. I'm curious to see how that develops.
I don't think that's the subtitle.
What?
Subtitle.
No.
There's not a subtitle.
No?
No.
You don't think?
That's
Mass
just
Effect
like James Bond will
continue?
return.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the same. I don't know.
The Avengers will return.
I can't tell if you're joking or not. This is a joke, right? Okay.
Thor will return in Avengers.
But that's the
Age of
thing.
Ultron.
I think, Joe, that's the thing.
Or some
Like,
shit like that.
if they had done the rest of that teaser, and they didn't even have like a subtitle, or you know, like if they just said Mass Effect on there, I probably wouldn't have been turned off the way that I am.
I love the
It's
will
literally
return.
those words. It's like will continue, and it's like of course it's gonna continue. Like what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll continue, dude.
It just feels like it just felt like it was so obvious, and like every up until that point, it's just like, oh, it's Mass Effect. It's definitely Mass Effect. I recognize this music. I know what they're doing. I understand
Yeah.
like what they're saying to me, and then and then it sort of ended and like will continue, and I'm like, well, you didn't actually announce anything.
To
Well,
me,
but-
will
well,
continue
the-
is
the-
saying we'll be back in a while. That's the only thing will
Right.
continue to me conveyed. It's not
Well,
like,
I
hey,
think-
Mass Effect's back. It's like, hey, see you in a lot of years. It'll continue, but
But it's like
I
it
think
feels
the
like you don't
reason
even have
they-
an idea for what the crap
Well,
the game is.
No. The reason they said that, and I think they didn't need to, well, apparently they did, but like they're saying that we're continuing the story from 3 because that's Liara.
yeah, exactly.
And like that I
But
was
they
excited
showed
about.
Andromeda too. I'm pretty sure.
I
Or they
mean,
showed
maybe I didn't
someplace
play
else. I'd have to
Andromeda,
look
so
back
I
at
don't know
it.
anything about Andromeda. But like,
Same.
Liara was my waifu in 1, 2, and 3. So
Best
like,
girl.
best girl. Actually, she treats you real weird and whatever. But but I mean, I like her a lot, and so like, her little whimsical look when she sees the N7 thing, and like being there and her being there, you know, that's got me
Looking
hyped because it's
older,
like,
decades
yeah,
later.
she's older, yeah, and so it's like that's cool. And then yeah, saying will continue. It's like, well, yeah, there was a character from the previous games in your trailer.
And
But-
two, I guess the announcement. Now that we're sitting here talking about it, like it has it's getting me more hyped for the remaster now. Like I'm
Yeah.
by showing
I need to
this
finish
trailer.
3.
Yeah, by showing this Mass Effect will continue trailer. Now I'm even more hyped for the remaster, and then like one day even playing Andromeda. Like I'm in now. Like cross save, import your saves. Like so, I think that element of the reveal worked for me.
Mass Effect 2 is such a beautiful, wonderful game.
10 out of 10.
can't
One of
wait.
the greats.
I'm excited.
And-
Sure.
My hype is dead even.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that really.
that's because it's BioWare, and like they've had 4 giant, well, 2 I guess, giant missteps, you know, lately.
Huber, a game I should not be as excited for as I am.
Sorry, what if we get the headline Anthem will continue?
No, they said that last week.
Anthem
The
will
Anthem
end.
next, or whatever it is,
They
right?
have a
They did?
trailer.
Yeah. But just that tagline is like their thing now.
Right.
Anthem will
Was it?
continue.
Wasn't that the first No Man's Sky update? Was that next?
I think
I think
so.
it was. That's
think
like when
so.
they They really tried to turn it around. They're literally doing the playbook of No Man's Sky, trying to save Anthem.
The Easy Allies podcast.
All right, Jones.
Will continue.
Yeah, the Mass Effect podcast is now complete. Jones, go ahead.
The interruption count, Jones, is 1 now. I always,
Add it up.
anytime you try to transition.
Add it up. Evil Dead the game, Huber.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a crazy announcement, man. There's no way this game runs well. This game will, you know what I mean? It'll be Friday the 13th all over again, right?
Expectations are low, and I am hyped.
The Michael Huber story.
Yeah. More excited for Ben. Ben is the big Evil Dead guy.
Yeah, Ben called
Like,
it. Ben knew what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Immediately,
Ben loves Evil Dead. Like, I'm excited to play with Ben, so I can just feel his enthusiasm and his excitement through that. Yeah, exciting. You know, again, you bring up Friday the 13th. It ran pretty horribly. It had a lot of problems, but it was charming. It was fun. It captured the spirit of Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees.
Right.
So I
Kinda
didn't really
wild.
like Predator that much. Hunting Grounds.
Is this made by the same team as?
I don't think it is, no. But
Oh, okay.
just like these horror franchise kind of coming back. So
It's funny that we had. I mean, this game is, I guess more Friday the 13th or Dead by Daylight maybe than Last of Us or Left 4 Dead, but like 2 Left 4 Dead clones in one Game Awards. Interesting.
I feel bad because I feel bad when they place something that's a big announcement and then something comes out later that's like it's a fun update and the fans will be excited, but it's in like the same genre with pretty much the same aesthetic, and like the moment you see like another zombie show up or like
Oh my
something
God.
explode into a pile of blood, it's like, you know.
That Western where a zombie clawed out of the thing, I just checked out immediately. I was just like, this is like the 7th like zombie that looks like that crawling out of something game that we've had in this specific Game Awards. Like, let's pump up from a different well here, gang.
Even having open roads, and I was like, oh, is this the road trip game I'm thinking of? Like, no. And then Road 26 shows up, and it's like, it's this, Jones. I'm like, it's not. This is another road trip game. Like,
There were
Hyped for all
3
the
road trip games in
there's
this.
a lot of road trip games.
Because there's
on the horizon.
Season, my game of the show, baby, Season. That game looked freaking great.
Yeah,
Oh.
that was a very pretty world.
I know we talked about Mass Effect a lot, but I just kind of like skimmed through the teaser again, and like what the thing I interpreted as Andromeda is not Andromeda. It's just like a star cluster or something like that, or maybe a different galaxy, but it's not Andromeda Galaxy.
got it.
Yeah, my vibe from that was like, okay, Andromeda was a mistake. We're just going from 3.
Yeah.
It does show a smashed up Mass Effect relay though.
It's like Terminator Dark Fate. Like, let's try this again.
Yeah.
Again.
Totally.
You know, you get excited. I got excited when I saw Ash. You know, when you hear him talking when he comes out of that cabin. Hubert, how do you feel when Vin Diesel walks on screen? When you're watching, doesn't matter the time period. It could be present day. It could be the future. It could be the distant past.
You know,
And you don't believe him in any of them.
you know, we tease Vin Diesel. I love him in Riddick, but hit or miss for video games. Hit or miss as a video game star.
Hit or miss for Riddick, too, though. Like,
Yeah.
2 of those movies aren't great.
Yeah, I get this
Just
feeling.
bizarre. Just full on the most bizarre announcement. You know, Keeley kept saying unexpected. And,
Unexpected.
yeah, just so unexpected.
That roller
there's
coaster
something-
ride was, to me, the highlight. That was the best moment of the entire Game Awards with us. Just like, what is happening right now?
There was something weird about like the animation blending or something going on in that trailer, because it just sort of felt like, okay, you've got Vin Diesel's face, but like somebody just like stuck it onto this character model like a post-it note almost. Like it was just there were just times where it just felt off. Like
It felt
maybe
off.
the lighting on the face and the background wasn't matching up, or I don't know what it was.
Well, it wasn't
just felt
expressive.
sort of
like his face
disconnected,
just
yeah.
felt like stone and like plastic the whole time.
Kind of
Yeah.
like, you know how like LA Noir faces were, you know, where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cool technology, but it doesn't really it doesn't. Something's just not quite right. It looks like you're looking at a video on top of a character model or something.
I believe what you're describing is the Uncanny Valley.
Sure.
And LA Noire in VR
Yeah.
only exacerbates that. My favorite is when somebody's like talking and their expression just goes away. They're just like, I don't trust you, copper. You're like, ah. It's like, end facial animation. Like, ah.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer because, you know, when he like chucked the spear at the dino, we're like, he's going to come back in riding it. And then he
Yeah,
doesn't.
should've.
And we were like, oh, I guess it's not that type of game. It's totally that type of game.
Yeah, that's like the thing.
That's what you do. Yeah.
It's the cave drawings. And it's like me and my pet dino.
What the
Strange. I just
hell?
didn't know that Ark had so much lore.
And money.
You got an anime going. You got Vin Diesel coming in. Like they're like
The anime
They
looked
have a
cool.
story to tell.
Yeah. I think the Ark lore starts right now. I don't think it has happened before. I think the lore was from the player base.
Got it.
But
There's definitely like stuff going on, but yeah. it's-
behind the various, you know, types of creatures and stuff like that they've added. to
Yeah,
the
I
game.
think it probably has lore, but it doesn't really have like a narrative
Got it.
arc,
Right.
Yeah.
so to speak, right?
Well, they got me intrigued for sure.
How long
It's
is that
just-
going to
it's-
last? Are
it's-
you going to be you sign it up? You gonna,
It all. Speaking of Ben, it'll all. If Ben rides out, I'll ride out.
Oh,
100%.
okay.
Yeah.
Yo, speaking of Ride Out, remember that dragon game?
Dude,
I
Dragon
totally
Game
forgot about
Right.
that.
Awesome.
That looks sick.
Yeah.
Century Age of Ashes.
Yeah, I'm in for
Right.
this. I'm surprised
Layer
that a game
two.
like this doesn't exist that I know of. A dragon
Well,
team-based
Panzer.
PvP game.
Right.
Panzer
But
Dragoon. Oh, yeah,
Century
not
though,
multiplayer.
Huber used to have to play a 100-hour Assassin's Creed. Now you have to play a 100-year Dragon game.
Yeah.
There'll be some time jumps, time skips.
Probably they're just a century old, Bloodworth. Or they're a century.
Like, how cool would that be? This is wishful thinking, and it's only not going to happen. But if the progression was you raising your dragon like getting older, or like you taking care of it, that leads into different
it's
Does
skills.
generational.
not look like that happens.
I know, I know.
I guarantee it goes through generations, but since dragons live so long, they take a long time to get to fighting age. So whole families have to raise these dragons.
Oh.
So you live through this entire family drama before you get to fight.
They're so awesome.
I was charmed by It Takes Two. I thought that
I was
really
just gonna say that.
I thought that
Yeah.
really stood out, and I thought that was so different. Huber, you really liked Hello. What is it called?
Beyond and
A Way Out?
A
A Way Out, yes. And this is a curveball. I did not expect this this type of a game. I did not expect the characters to be as small as they did, for us to just kind of have this like Little Big Planet meets Tearaway meets. There's just a lot of Unravel. You know, I kind of got vibes.
Right, yeah, I was getting Unravel vibes.
There's just so much going on, and it was interesting. They showed so much of it, and I can't really remember any of it. You know, like there was nothing really I felt was spoilery, or any moments that I thought were going to take away from the surprise that you obviously want your players to experience. So go Hazelight. I
Yeah.
thought-
Yeah,
and
there's
we're getting
just
that game
a lot
in
of
4
quick
months.
shots of just gameplay all over the
All-
place.
all
Kinds of
over the place.
Yeah.
Well, and it was cool because when he was saying like their whole thing is co-op only, and then they showed the gameplay, and I was like, huh, why co-op only for this? You know, like this doesn't seem like the kind of thing. But then they kind of get into the story more, and it's like a couple trying to save their relationship. And yeah, it seems like it'll be zany and fun, and also like touching maybe.
Bonds.
So
Mm-hmm.
bonds.
So yeah, a lot of the other stuff that I'm going to talk about is before we get to my favorite moment, that I thought was an interesting introduction to stuff for the game announcements that they had, and then there were lots of other fun updates. But that one was like, I just thought the complete package in terms of like, I think I knew the name. I think we knew that there was going to be another project coming from Hazelight. It was probably a safe bet that was going to be announced at the Game Awards. But I thought that did a pretty good job of showing itself up. But and I feel bad because when we saw the logo for the initiative, I should have known it was going to be Perfect
Yeah.
Dark.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
as long as
Yeah.
I
We talked about this
I
a
checked
lot on
I checked
past-
articles, and they all said the long rumored. You know, they were like, we knew it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't know, but was my heart leapt out of my chest when I saw that PD together, that logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Perfect Dark coming back. 15 years since Perfect Dark Zero in
Wow.
2005. Perfect
Wow.
Dark, of course, the pseudo sequel to GoldenEye 007 from Rare on the Nintendo
Jones,
64,
so-
a game that I played a bunch and love a bunch.
So this is another one of those kind of like Mass Effect announcements, you know? I don't why am I not screaming right now? Is that a me issue, or was it because of the announcement? Was it just because it's like a CG see you in a couple years thing again? But I feel like the return of Perfect Dark should have been this like triumphant moment. And it's like, oh, cool, Perfect Dark coming back. All
They
right,
did say
next.
it was early.
Yeah.
In their little
Did they-
spiel beforehand.
Did they just announce it too early again? Like, I don't
No,
know.
I mean-
I wish I was more excited, and I'm like sad and mad at myself for not being. But I guess we don't really know what the game even.
Right.
Is?
Well, that's the thing. I think that's one that we're gonna have to like rewatch now.
And there
knowing
is a new trailer
that-
because they were
that's
kind of
what it is?
cryptic in their announcement,
Yeah.
and then there's a new trailer now where they talk about Perfect Dark and they talk about why they like Perfect Dark and what their plans for it are.
Right.
one of
Well,
the-
like
yeah.
even when they were leading up to it, they were talking about it. This game's not just a shooter, and you do these other, have these other tools, and et cetera, et cetera. And when they were talking about the game initially, it just felt like, okay, they're introducing this new IP, and
Right.
so we'll just see what this is, see what this world is like. And it wasn't until they, got to the top of that building that you're like, oh crap.
Joanna.
Yeah.
It looks like a sequel, Jones. I feel like that's probably the direction. Just gut theory, gut reaction. Sequel to Perfect Dark, the original, not a prequel.
It
Looks
is-
like the
they
end
are-
of the world times.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
are wiping the slate clean. This is brand
Yeah.
new. This is a reimagining of
Yeah.
the. Of the
You
whole
think it'll
thing.
be a full reboot?
They said so. They're like
they're
this is-
disregarding
wow.
Yep,
Zero
this
and
is the
oh
brand
wow.
new. Yep, going back to the drawing board.
Reboot.
So we don't know. I have no idea if the Carrington Institute's in it. If Carrington at all, is in it.
Okay.
I did not play Perfect Dark Zero. I was told not to by many people.
It's okay.
So
It's okay.
I was like forcibly pushed away from all of my efforts to potentially. Be
And this is
interested
the
in it.
initiative's first game too, right? So we don't have anything to go off of in terms of what these guys are capable of.
Yeah.
Just veterans of the studio with probably some serious financial backing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they're a Microsoft studio,
Yeah.
so yeah, they've got the backing for sure.
They talked a lot about like an eco sci-fi, as they said is the theme.
Yeah.
A somewhat it's a big eco lots of ecology issues that affect the planet, and apparently
Shout
if you're
out to
just
the
like
East.
if you're just living in this world, things appear fine, but obviously there's dark shadows, and you got to have the spies come in and save the day. And so they talked a lot about tech. They talk a lot about there's one great quote from the new trailer where the guy's like, Perfect Dark, he's like the weapons still good, the gadgets still
Nice.
good, like still memorable. There's some stuff, the Far Sight, there's still stuff from that game that is really unique
Laptop gun.
and still is. A lot of the secondary
The
modes.
counter-op mode.
So yeah,
Jones, do
Yeah.
you think right now, I want your gut response. Do you think this new Perfect Dark can reach Fortnite, Halo, Call of Duty levels with its multiplayer?
That's tough.
with its multiplayer.
With its multiplayer.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem. I think with the story focus, it doesn't seem. I think only something like an Apex can do that. That just is literally designed. Like we're in an era now where like you have to make that type of game. Like you have to make a game that is, because I think generally the audiences that really gravitate towards that stuff are like, I got my game. I got I have Fortnite. I have Apex. I don't. I'm not playing anything else.
Even Last of Us is going dedicated multiplayer only for
Right.
factions. Yeah, good call.
But like I mean, forgive me, I didn't own a 64. I only ever played it at friends' houses. But like, Perfect Dark had multiplayer mode just like GoldenEye, right?
Oh yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I remember playing it and liking it.
So excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Super excellent.
it was basically like GoldenEye on steroids, except
Right.
because it was a new IP and it came later in the N64 life cycle. Then there just wasn't as much attention on the game.
Right.
But they.
So they've got to at least have that, right? That'd be nuts.
Oh,
if they-
no. Of
Yeah, I
course.
think it's going to be expected, and that's
Yeah.
but that's what I mean. I think that's why one of the reasons that we're like not just over the moon for it, because it's like, yeah, just because it's Perfect Dark doesn't necessarily mean anything, because it's like, okay, this is clearly not Rare doing it, and even so, like, the guys that made those games at Rare left Rare and made their own studio, and made Time Splitters and all that, and even the style of first-person shooters has radically changed since those games, and the expectations have radically changed.
So wild to think about.
And so it's just like, to make something that has those vibes and the creativity that that game has, while also standing up to all the craziness that a modern multiplayer game needs. Like, there's a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Seasons and battle passes and all.
Well, I don't think it'll be. I think if anything, they would go back to that kind of more like GoldenEye kind of feeling.
Local multiplayer
for the
only.
I don't think you know what GoldenEye feels like anymore. If you're saying
Well,
5
the
FPS.
feeling that we had at the time. You know, it's
auto
funny is-
aim that pulls you across the whole half the screen.
Yeah. What's funny for the single player, like vibes wise, Half-Life Alyx comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I mean, I don't know if they're going VR with this, but that would fit kind of.
They said they really want to focus on movement. So like it's not only gadgets, but they said that we really want to. They said he specifically said GoPro. He's like, I kind of want you to have this kind of like, you know, like taking the camera and taking character movement and moving the action in ways that you're not normally, you know, used to in first person shooters with you know,
Weird.
with the spy genre, you know, like having more of an action focus for spies, but also giving people options.
That's the
like they had.
thing. I think they really, like, single player and multiplayer, they really have to lean into spy stuff.
Yeah, espionage.
So heavily. Like, if you just make this to be like another, you know, typical FPS with just like a laptop gun, that you know, there's got to be like even the modes. Like it's got to have like some of the crazy like spies versus mercs types of stuff that Splinter Cell did. So just really shake it up. Don't stick to the standard kind of things.
Yeah.
There are 12 other fun announcements that happened at this Game Awards, not to mention 21 other fun updates that we'll get to very quickly in just a second. I'm going to throw these titles at you. It's a fun game to play after your brain is completely fried from 3.5 hours of Game Awards. Try to remember if you know what these games are.
This is fun.
Loop Hero.
Yeah,
it's
looked
the
like
top-down Ultima
Souls Tower Defense vibes.
Yeah.
From the Devolver Digital Awards, which was thankfully a lot shorter than we were anticipating it being. But that looks fun. That had a fun trailer. A very fun, very intentional aesthetic. Chia? I'm guessing it's pronounced.
Chia, I think they.
She
Chia?
like goes
Just Chia?
inside of the animals
Crab?
or objects, right?
Yeah. It was
And
like
jumps
Mario
off
Odyssey
everything?
and the islands.
But lots of kind of Breath of the Wild vibes, climbing up the cliffs. She's got the blanket flying down. Shadow Part of Me.
That was
I don't
the
remember.
contrast, like little girl limbo shadow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That one
That
looked
one's
cool,
out,
actually.
right?
It's out.
Wait, that's
Nice.
out.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the one. I was trying to remember. I was like, I was gonna download something.
Wasn't it like Shady Part of Me?
Shady Part of Me?
Oh, Shady Part of Me.
I believe.
Sorry, I keep looking
It's
up
just
because
a
there's a
shady
spider
part of
just
me.
like on my wall right now, just like
Oh, that's
What kind of
Shady Part You,
spiders?
yeah.
Nice.
I think it's just a daddy long legs.
Oh.
Oh, those are great.
So, yeah.
And Ian, you got a little bit of a behind the scenes take on this from Teddy. We Are OFK, which had a music video kicking it off. Palm Tree Team is Teddy's new crew.
All I know is he's been this damn palm tree for years,
This
and he
damn
couldn't tell
palm
anything
tree.
about it, you know. And then, you know, he tweeted yesterday the palm tree and said tomorrow. So we were like, okay, Game Awards, they're finally announcing it. And then I got the email right before Game Awards started from whoever their PR people are. That's like embargo until after the performance in the thing. So yeah, it's like I guess it's a interactive behind the scenes making of the band slice of life game thing with a virtual band. Seems all right.
They have their own Twitter account, which I think is adorable, at OFK Band. And so like all of the promotion for this game so far has been very much like, no, we're a real band. Like, you know, like, yeah, we're a game second, but you want to focus on us and focus on the music. And
I was talking with a friend, and he was like, I can't tell if they're real people in a fake band or fake people in a real band.
Yeah.
And I
good
guess
place to be.
some of the people in it are real and some are fake. I guess is what he was saying. So yeah.
We'll find out.
Who knows? Very mysterious.
Century Age of Ashes we talked about. That's Dragon Air Combat.
Right.
Layer 2, essentially.
Layer 2.
Season. Ian, you want to
Season,
share a little
dude.
bit more? Just was
Right
the visuals
off
that
the
grabbed you?
bat.
Because damn, that game looks gorgeous.
Oh, it was beautiful, and just the themes of it, and I love the idea of. I have the website here. They say it's a bicycle road trip, and you document, photograph, and record as you're going. And yeah, the main character, they're just like taking audio recordings, taking little video recordings, and photographs of stuff, and that just seems like. I mean, I cherish our Pokemon Snap stream that we did back in the day because I'd never gotten to play that game before, and I just loved it.
There's another one in our future.
I know.
Exciting.
And so the idea of there's just something so pure to me about just recording sounds and taking pictures as you're traveling. And yeah, like you said, the graphics are beautiful, and I love the way the characters are drawn and the locations and the feelings of it. It just seems so meditative, and like I said during the trailer while we were watching it that it was giving me like Studio Ghibli vibes.
Yeah.
And like the way that the shots were framed and everything is very artistic. It seemed to have a really nice voice creatively, and it looks really great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sort of summer vacation feel you kind of get out of some of the Ghibli films.
Yeah.
That's good.
And like a little, like, I'm certain that, you know, who knows, but like, I'm certain that there's some kind of sadness going on, and like, you know,
definitely
moving on from a breakup or a death or something, and traveling to,
sign
you know,
me up.
or whatever. Like, but
I think
yeah,
it says in
I
the
don't
trailer,
know.
my grandparents lived for 1,000 years and my parents
right.
lived for another 1,000 years or something. Or maybe this is like
and
a
it seems like the world is kind of
lineage
falling
sense,
apart.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
remember.
it's
There was
like the
something
end of
to
the
that, though.
world.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're carrying on the legacy of your family. But yeah, no, it's one of the things again that still stays
And
with
we
me
just have a
about
season.
Red Dead Redemption 2 was just that, like, looking at birds like through the binoculars and just like boop, it would tag like add that bird to your list, and I would like, you know, be on the horse running down a trail and a bird would flutter away and I'd be like, I know what bird that is.
Oh, yes, Jones.
The Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, dude.
Fingers crossed for this one. Hopefully this doesn't.
Heck yes.
Hopefully
the Dead
this doesn't
Space
take
one?
a BioWare
Yes.
length of development time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Striking
that's the
Distance
one.
Studios 2022.
Yeah, because it's like these
Ways
guys.
away.
So I got this cryptic email last week or something. It's like confirming my address, and they're like, "We're gonna send you a package, but we're not gonna tell you who it's from." I'm like, what? The crap is this? And then like, so they sent me like a cooler full of like everything that you need to make cocktails, which I'm basically gonna give to Brad, just to like celebrate that they're announcing their game. And Greg Miller had
A
posted
recipe
photos of it
for
and stuff
for a
too.
special drink.
What's that?
It had a recipe for a drink
Yeah,
based
yeah.
on their
Like
game.
this is
yeah.
this is kind of like they do this a lot at events. Like when they have a preview event, they'll have some weird cocktail that has some strange ingredients or something. This one seems kind of
the
straightforward. at
glamorous life of a video game media
yeah.
person.
least. Yeah, and it's like one of those things. Is like you might try it just because it's free. And it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of gross, and then you put it down.
Oh yeah, that's kind of gross.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, love the vibe. Obviously, Thing vibes. Always
Yeah.
down for some new horror IP. Fingers crossed. You said it, Jones. 2022.
Yeah,
Little small real estate. Very very back of my mind, but
but anyways, what I was
talk
getting
about
to there.
talk about an announcement. Like compare this to the Mass Effect thing or the Dragon Age thing, where it's like similar, a CG trailer.
a
From
date.
we came to find a pedigree background, you know, but because of that date, we have different feelings about it, you know.
totally.
Yeah. But no, what I was gonna say is that like when I pointed out the whatever pre-announcement thing on Twitter, like people were saying, oh, they're the same studio is gonna be like making this game in the PUBG universe, and like my expectations kind of went down. It's like, oh, okay, we're gonna see some single player PUBG game. And then once it started becoming clear that like, no, this is a freaking horror game. This got nothing to do with PUBG. They're like,
It might.
It's on the moon of Callisto. PUBG could still be happening on Earth while this is
Yeah.
happening. We don't know. Hard to say. Fun spin on just the whole concept of lead character. We see this guy just absolutely get worked in his cell, and then we move cameras out to kind of see like
Someone's
this guy doesn't seem that freaked out that this is happening. So like maybe this does happen. Maybe he wanted it to.
Yeah.
Who are we playing as? Are we playing as multiple people? I have questions.
It's interesting to see.
Are they creating these things in the prison? Like, are the prisoners
They're
just sort of
experimenting
like,
on them, yeah.
It's interesting to see all these live service ongoing games just doubling, tripling down on story, like Warzone, Modern Warfare, story based. League of Legends getting a spin-off game within the League of Legends universe,
story,
like
specifically.
Yeah, Fortnite
But I mean,
obviously
one,
just keeps going. Apex.
Just to be clear, this one is not the PUBG tie-in game.
Right.
Like,
okay, I'm confused.
yeah, nothing to do with it.
confused.
Same company
Got it. Okay.
that is making a PUBG tie-in game.
Got it.
right.
We saw Crimson Desert, which do you remember Crimson Desert?
I remember
The
Black
longest
Desert.
trailer of the
This
show.
is the longest trailer of the show.
Besides maybe Smash.
It's crazy. Hubert, I agree with you that gameplay is better than cutscenes is better than CG. There is such a thing as too much gameplay. There is such a thing. When you see a guy get in a good stab with the grapple, and then he grapples like 8 more people, you're like, yeah, that was a different animation, but like I got it. Yeah, there's things in the forest and you're fighting them. I got it,
Yeah.
Sure
Which I
are
feel bad
fighting.
because that's an interesting title from Pearl Abyss, which somebody recognizes as a developer of something
Black
else.
Desert.
Black
Yeah.
Desert, that's what
Online.
it was.
It's a MMO.
Which also is the kind of thing where very pretty game, but the whole package doesn't necessarily, I think, fit together aesthetically in the way that other big RPGs do.
Well, it's just very framey right now. It's just very early, and the performance is not typically what you would see when somebody shows off gameplay. But then, as Ian pointed out, like it's got like this crazy like voxel thing going on with like lots of destruction in the environments.
You could see it in the way, like, there's a shot where the camera's going over one of the environments and you see a boat in the water. I started noticing it because the way the water was, like, compressed. It had that, like, grainy look to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started noticing it in the grass and the stones and trees and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's how this can look so... It looked pretty good, but that's how they can show so much on screen at once is because it's, like, all these little... pointillated kind of.
It made me desperate
something.
for a new Dragon's Dogma. I was getting
It
strong
does have
Dragon's
similar
Dogma
vibe, yeah.
vibes. Just the way the characters were moving, the large open environments that are kind of like barren still. Just getting.
Well, he's straight never-ending stories, that dragon, all the way through.
Yeah.
He's doing like barrel rolls. That's what's crazy. Also, a really interesting way to kind of drum up mystery, I thought, by showing cutscenes that we couldn't hear. I thought that was an interesting twist.
Yeah, the
usually
trailer.
see. Yeah.
I
There's a
think
bad
that's-
trailer for a game that looks interesting.
Well, I think that's probably because the English
VO
language
is not
isn't done yet. It's a
close
Korean
by.
company.
Yeah.
So I believe Korean, South Korean.
Evil West, we talked about 2 road trip games, Open Roads and Road
Yes.
2096.
Road 96.
One a little creepier than the other one. The other one looks a little Life is Strangey. And we're getting a Ghosts and Goblins remake that's called Ghosts and Goblins something. It was like remastered or reborn.
Resurrection, I think.
Resurrection.
Yeah.
February 25th. Kind of looks
Yeah,
like a Flash
I don't know,
game, but
man.
I'll
This
play
gave
it.
me like the vibes of like the Final Fantasy phone ports. Like the visuals on it.
Sure.
They're smooth in the wrong ways. Like, I don't know.
Well, and the animations look kind of like funny.
And it's such a hard game. Like you want it to look good. That's the thing about Bloodborne. I was like, man, that boss was tough, but I can't stop playing this. Like, I gotta,
Well, and that's
gotta
the
keep going
other
after
thing,
that
too.
boss because that boss.
I'd have to
beautiful.
watch and see whether I feel this way about this game in particular, but it doesn't really matter. Like when you have a game that's like this hardcore and like you die like in a snap, you don't want to trade like good clear hitboxes for some
Yeah.
aesthetic
Good point.
that may not work. So it's I don't know.
But then directly following that, Capcom Arcade Studio, whatever.
Arcade
Stadium,
Stadium. Shadow Drop.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Get Dawn on the phone.
That was new. The rest of these we knew about. Maybe we didn't see gameplay or we didn't like have an official announcement, but we knew these things were happening. Stop me if you feel like talking about them. Back for Blood. Yay.
Yeah.
Back for Blood.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Looks very solid.
That's
Not
exciting. Yeah.
Solid.
super surprising, but the
Yeah.
giant enemies are great.
The scale of the enemies was really cool.
Yeah.
Like normal guys, medium guys, and super huge guys. It was neat.
I think
Very,
I
very
think
exciting.
when Sephiroth got announced and then we saw Back for Blood and then saw a little bit of Warhammer 40K Darktide, that was the high. That was
Yeah.
when, as far as like announcements, that's when we were just like,
Yeah.
gaming's great, you know. And then like you got a lot of commercials near the end of that show.
Well, and as is the case for very hyped games, you know, possibility murder. Everything that's not Elden Ring is less chance of Elden Ring, you know. Everything that's not Silent Hills, even though Returnal gave it a run for its money for a second with that blasted door, is not Silent Hill, you know. So
Disco Elysium, the final cut though.
shit, yeah, dude. It was funny. I almost said it when they were showing the trailer. I was like, I bet you they voiced everything, because that
Yeah.
was one thing in the original that, like, you know, it was one of those games where clearly, because they just didn't have the time and money, probably they didn't voice every single line, and they did now. And things seem moved around, like a boat and a car were in a different position. Things looked a little different. They said they added more quests. Disco Elysium, dude.
You
I
play
love
that
that
again?
fucking
Yeah.
game. I don't know if I would play it again just because
Same.
it might be too soon.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
love the way it's written. I love how lyrical it is. Seems like something I might go back to in a few years.
Agreed.
But yeah, and that's an important thing. Is a very nice thing about this is that if you already own it, you get a free upgrade, which is really nice too.
But if you
Shout out
haven't,
to Kim.
that's in March. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Kim is so good. Didn't
Shout
he win
out.
our best,
Best
character?
character,
Yeah,
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sea of Solitude had a very similar announcement.
The
Yeah.
director's
Like
cut.
the Switch version
Switch
is
only. Yeah.
not a port. You know, they're changing up a bunch of things. They've rewritten dialogue. They've re-recorded acting, and yeah, it's interesting to see them go to that extent for, you know, essentially a Switch release for a game that people have already checked out. But it doesn't sound like this version is coming to other platforms. It's a bit of a oddball.
Was that game good?
I think
Looks
it's okay.
cool. I never
I
got
think
around to
it doesn't.
unfortunately.
I haven't played it, but from my take, from what I've understood from reading the review or whatever, is it doesn't pay off in quite as strong of a way as you might expect it to.
Maybe it does now.
Yeah.
Sure.
The story has big emotions, not a ton of complexity, for what I remember. Brad reviewed that, right?
I think so.
And she had a ton of energy. Brad and I interviewed her at E3, and she was very,
Yeah.
very excited.
She's very passionate creator.
Near Replicant gave us the first gameplay, which looked pretty.
Awesome. Seems like
And
a perfect
made
time for that.
Sydney
you know?
say the whole title out loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Just
fun.
so
Good music.
perfect. It's my favorite thing. You know, a series blows up the way Automata did. Go back, redo the original, get everyone even more hyped. So cool.
Yeah, it doesn't look super impressive, but it's definitely a step up from the original. So
From an outsider like me, it looked a little samey, but I definitely recognized that was something that we had not seen before, and could definitely tell the differences between what I had seen previously of Automata. Monster Hunter Rise is getting a demo in January.
Very nice.
Hunts.
Endless Dungeon was the band performing. It was a little squid guy playing piano.
Oh, yeah,
You can wish
yeah.
list that on Steam. That apparently, again, these are things that we knew about before, but we got to see a little bit more interesting trailer for Endless Dungeon. Returnal, just brutal tease. We got
Oh,
Returnal.
Murder.
Goodness.
It's
Nah.
not-
Were we
not-
the only ones that got
maybe not
trolled?
Returnal's
Were-
fault.
Were
We're the
other
only ones that
people
aren't excited
thinking
about
PT?
Mass Effect 5. We're the only ones that thought
It
that was
looked
PT.
like the
We're the only
PT
ones-
door in
yeah.
hallway.
It
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it did.
Like Blood
did.
said in the thing. The only thing that gave me pause was that you could see the bottom part of
Yeah.
a space helmet, and then
But in
immediately
that-
I was like, okay, this is Returnal. But
Yeah.
like,
In that
Damn
moment,
it.
you know, reactions are like a game pops up and it's like that. Good.
I thought that mask was like a lower third for the Game Awards, like coming
So
up
did
next
I.
on the Game Awards or something. But that's Housemarque, and we're
Yeah.
a couple months away. That's March 19th.
Super excited. Love their games.
As Huber mentioned, Ruined King, a League of Legends story, which is Diablo meets turn-based. There's a lot going on there
Yeah, that was
in that trailer.
Unclear.
It reminded
Need
me of
the walkthrough
Battle
for that.
Chaser. Battle
Yes.
Chaser Night Warrior, I think it's called. Yeah. Love that game.
Which is I was tempted to check that
Battle
out.
Chaser?
But never got around to it.
Love
Played
it.
that. I think played that at E3. Played that Judges Week. And really
Yeah, I
liked it.
played at E3 and I really wanted to get into it and I just never did.
Super fun, super good.
Felt bad for Scavengers from Midwinter Entertainment, which is Shadow dropped their closed beta, which they're bringing in like 50,000 new people. I think that came right after Shadow, the protocol or whatever it came right after something really cool. I think it might have been the Back for Blood or something, and it was just like, ooh, you were right after this thing that was really cool. And if you're like, we've already announced this game, it's like,
Right.
Well, and Jeff's toss to it was maybe a little weird because it felt like we were going into an ad break.
yeah,
And then that happened, which may have been an ad.
I think it might have been.
Yeah,
It's hard to
there's
tell.
a few things where like the lines were so blurry. It's like,
Maybe a little
okay,
too
Jeff
blurry.
is throwing to this. Is this a part of the
Little too
show?
How is that
Or is
compared to
this an
previous
ad?
years telling
Yeah.
that break? Because when I'm there, because this is the first one I've ever seen on the internet, I've been at the show, and you can easily tell because the lights come up, everybody goes to the bathroom, and instead of being on the big screen, it's just on like the corner screens. So you can tell like, that's a commercial. Some mobile games coming back for like the 7th commercial. But couldn't really tell that this year because we were all the online audience.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of repetition in the ads at least.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
thankfully,
don't think
yeah.
any.
Scarlet Nexus we've already seen, but we got to see a little bit more. Summer 2021. Fall Guys, we got to see season 3. A little bit of Odyssey from Elite Dangerous. Potentially got a nice flag on Twitch there for that song. Early 2021.
for that.
Early 2021, but no date is interesting at this point for people to say early 2021.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
that.
March is early.
Let's just get through the holidays and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're not totally certain because it's in beta or will be in beta
Yeah.
if it's not already. So yeah, and they're known for they respond pretty well to community feedback from those betas. Like I know with Carriers, everyone was like, "Yo, these prices are absurd," and so they like went back to the drawing board and like changed it. If I recall.
Cool.
Haven't played it in a little while, so I'm a little out of touch with it, but I really like that game.
That's the one thing I could tell was Star Citizen and not Elite Dangerous is when the characters were on foot. And now I won't be able to tell the difference
Yeah.
between those two things. The Elder Scrolls Online saw a trailer for Gates of Oblivion, which I couldn't tell you if that had been announced before or not, if we knew that was the new expansion was Oblivion-based, or if we just had not seen
I
the
believe
cinematic
so.
of it.
I
We
think
knew
they've
the
done.
title, we
been
just
out
hadn't
there.
seen the cinematic.
Was
I
the
think.
last one Morrowind? I feel like the last one might have been
They did
Morrowind.
Morrowind at one point.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird trailer.
Maybe
I
not.
feel like it probably didn't do much to get non-players interested.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
You throw out that Oblivion logo though, and just that hype. That's cool.
It's like
Morrowind is more
that
hype
reference.
for me.
Wait.
I
Love Morrowind.
I know that logo.
Morrowind, yeah.
Microsoft Flight Simulators coming to Xbox Series X next summer. Among Us got a new map, the Airship.
Looks hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I got it mixed up. I think Oblivion is new, but they had like a Morrowind thing before.
Got it. You mentioned Capcom Arcade Stadium. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Season 1 starts on December 16th.
A lot of Adler lore, dude. It got me intrigued.
All right.
Some like Adler origins, some Adler rival. He was my favorite part of Cold War.
And we got our
That's the guy
crosses.
who looks like Richard Gere.
Yeah, he
Or,
looks like a lot of people.
Robert
He looks like
Redford.
Robert
Robert
Redford.
Redford.
Like big
Yeah,
That's what I
Robert
thought. I meant
Redford
Robert
mixed with
Redford.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
Redford. Brad
Yeah.
Redford.
Bradford.
Robert Pitt.
Warframe Cross Unreal Tournament.
Oh, yeah,
Shout out
that
to
was
the
so
Epic Games
weird.
Store.
Yeah.
So
I was like
confusing.
questioning for so long, like, wait, which game is
It's-
this?
Yeah,
It's-
wait, what game was it? I never found out.
It was
Warframe.
Warframe.
It was in okay.
It's
okay.
just like 6 guns from Unreal in Warframe.
And Forza Horizon 4, which Blood's going to take for a spin. Crossing with Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah,
It
getting
was
that car
very
in there.
rude. Blood, very rude on the road, that driver. He was just very, very aggressive. And, of course...
Dude, crossover hype. So many crossovers.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. I love it.
Well, just those two specifically from this Game Awards. And Swedish Chef and Overcooked, all you can eat. Specifically, all you can eat.
Let's
Yeah,
he
just
mentioned
those two, and then you
specifically
tell us
PS5,
another crossover.
PS5 and then Xbox
Yeah.
Series X. Well, there's no, but those are two games. The crossing
Keep
game,
'em
the
coming.
game meets game. That's Muppet meets game. It's a different,
We had
it's
a
a different
Smash
blending
thing, we had a
altogether.
Fortnite thing.
Right?
Yeah. All the crossovers.
All the crossovers.
Love it.
Wouldn't you know it? we got all those fun announcements, and they gave out some awards too, which is nice. I'm not going to go through all of those because we have talked about the Game Awards a lot. There are 4 things I want to talk about. 3 things specifically. 3 games I want to talk about.
Okay.
We have to talk about The Last of Us Part 2. Won 6 awards. Game of the Year, Direction, Accessibility, Audio, Narrative, and Performance. I think accessibility and performance were the 2 I was most jazzed about.
It was a shoo-in for those, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like,
and audio, I think, too.
and audio as well.
They went above and beyond with audio.
Yeah.
And the accessibility thing cannot be understated. Like
So
that,
good
this
in that
game is, it did a lot of really fantastic stuff in that field. Direction, I wasn't mad. Like it was a well-directed game.
It was a heavily directed game. It was a game where
Yeah.
you can. That's the thing with Oscars. Whenever I see nominees for Best Director, it's like I need to sense while I'm watching the film, like this was directed by someone. This was clearly
There
a
is a
person
vision.
that had a very clear vision for this. That's the thing about Tarantino. Like love him or not, these are his movies. These are the movies that man has made. And so yeah, there was definitely a vision for that. And I wouldn't have been surprised if either of the lead actors in Last of Us, but specifically, Laura for Abby. I was like, that would be great because that is such a difficult role, and it was such an interesting performance of a character as you're going through that game to be like, we're really running with her, aren't we? Okay, I thought
Well, I think
it might have just been a cutaway, but wow.
I'm happy that Abby, because to me, yeah, clearly it was probably between Abby and Ellie in that. I'm kind of glad Abby took it because I do think that character has a little more latitude and kind of goes on more of a journey throughout the story without saying anything or spoiling anything. I think she did a really good job.
Yeah. I was most invested in that award for sure. Just she's my favorite character of the year, like hands down. It's like the year of Arthur Morgan Jones, where it's just like I don't care about any other.
Sure.
Arthur Morgan, I don't care about any other award. It's just like Arthur Morgan, please. Even Kratos was that year, and it's just like
The narrative one, I was a little surprised by.
I was surprised by 6 awards because
Yeah.
it's one that obviously a lot of people got really touchy about this on social media, but even just with the reviewers, review scores were up and down, opinions were up and down, our spoiler mode was up and down, we had all sorts of crazy opinions about this game. And I definitely
People
felt that
were
reflected.
thrilled with my opinions.
I am thrilled. It just definitely seemed like there were a lot of opinions about this, and so it's something where now that the awards are over and I look back and it's like, oh yeah, they got 6. There is part of my brain that's like, duh, of course it was going to, but I don't know. Were you sure, Hubert? Did you think 6 was it going to not only take
Well,
GOTY but the most awards?
now I think where it's like okay, of course, but there was just so much noise about this game.
Yeah.
There's just so much noise, so much controversy, so many different opinions. Like it had the hardest time and the easiest time in a way. It has the backing of Naughty Dog and Sony, like the unlimited budget, but at the same time, like the expectations that go with that. So I just think, I didn't really know what to expect. I could have seen it go any other way, just because whenever you hear anything about Hades, it's nothing but love.
Yeah.
But then The Last of Us just has a lot of people that do not like that video game.
Right.
So I think, I could see it going any way, basically. Yeah.
Last of Us is such an interesting case because like from where I'm at, like I didn't really like it, but there were lots of things in it I did like, and obviously on a technical level, like you can't deny the achievements here and like how quality a game it is in many ways.
Yeah.
And like the issue, it's funny like that it took narrative because that's one of my issues that I have with it. I think that some of the game design stuff and the narrative are weaker than I think the quality of the other areas that game deserved. And so it is kind of funny. I like the way you put it, the way you phrased it, Hubert, that it had the easiest time and the hardest time.
Yeah.
And I really wish that games like and like video gamers, our community, for better or worse, a lot of times worse, very passionate community. As someone in this Game Awards actually said, like the reactions were passionate. Oh, it was when
Laura
she
Bailey,
won.
yeah.
It was with Laura Bailey.
And that's the other thing too. I felt that acceptance speech was very
Long?
emotional, very long. But I mean, I thought she did a good job.
No, it was good.
Really addressing everything, but not really
Yeah.
getting into it.
As little
but-
time
but
as the
speaking
awards
from
have
her
in these
heart.
awards, I'm fine with some
Yeah.
long acceptance
Yeah.
speeches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it was earnest and it was good.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is like, I wish that games like this could more safely just kind of be judged as they are, and like all the baggage could be set
Right.
aside. You know.
What was the gal looking through the window? Was that Tell Me Why? What was that? What
No,
win
that
was
was Last of Us, I think.
Just
For
No, the award. I'm sorry, the award speech.
I think
He
it was
like-
it was
he's like, "Oh, it's-"
accessibility for The Last of Us, Jones.
He was
think-
like,
yeah, I
"That's
think
my
so.
that's my neighbor."
And like love or hate the narrative, I do want to give it credit for just taking a risk, like
Yeah.
growing up my whole life, a sequel just meant more of the same but better usually. Like this was a sequel that just felt like they did a lot to the legacy of the first game. They didn't. I feel like they did not play it safe.
They knew the risk they were taking. They knew
took a risk.
They knew. I mean, the way they cut the trailers, the way they did the advertising going into like what actually happened in that game, like they clearly were like, we be very careful. That was something that, I think, could have been most damaged by, having spoilers going into it. Sorry, Blood, you had to read those YouTube comments. But if you want good vibes, Among Us beat Call of Duty twice. Among Us went up against COD for best multiplayer game, beat it. Among Us went up against one of the most lucrative mobile games of 2020, Call of Duty Mobile, beat it. Beat Genshin Impact, the Google and Apple mobile game of the year. And people were just
Well,
like,
and it
nope,
just goes to
it's
show
all
that it's
about
not-
Among Us right now. Still, in December right now, we're still in Among Us
and
time.
it's not just about how much money a thing made.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm sure they're not making decent money with Among Us, but
Yeah.
their acceptance speeches were cute
Yeah.
too.
Is it basically just those three people? Like,
It was three. If I understand the story correctly, it was the three people that made it originally. The game flopped. They like dissolved the company and stopped. Then it suddenly picked back up, and now they're four people. They
yeah.
hired up because they.
Well, yeah, they got Victoria to do community management for them because the
So,
community's
to my
got to
knowledge,
be
that's
managed.
it.
There's a lot of people out
Yeah.
there.
I loved was that her on the phone? I loved the gal
Victoria's on the
cackling
phone.
on the phone because you didn't really get to say anything. And it's like when you're on the phone accepting a speech, like you don't, like you're probably less reserved to be quiet, like while someone else is talking. So just like every sentence they would finish, you just hear her like, I don't believe that, just talking to herself.
Well, that was some of my favorite stuff in this Game Awards. It happened like a couple of times. When Among Us won the first time, you heard one of the guys go, "What?" Because they like turned on their sound, and then Sean Murray winning for
Which is
best
the other,
whatever.
the other feel good moment. My other thing I want to
Best
talk
ongoing.
about him.
He was literally mid swing
Mid-Corona
of
sip.
like a Corona beer, and
Yeah,
then
he
he's
was-
just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
Hi."
Maybe it was a
like he
Jones
was
root
taking
beer,
a
who
drink
knows,
because he
but-
was like, clearly this is not going to be me. They're about to cut
Right.
away. And like, oh,
Right.
what?
Really funny stuff.
Ian, I think on the team, you're probably most focused on No Man's Sky more than anybody. I was obsessed with that game when it first launched, and that's largely why I've stayed away from it, because I know I would, just completely get re-obsessed in it.
I've probably played the most of any of us. I dipped back in the Beyond, I think, is the current one. I think in Next and a couple of the other ones, I jumped in and built a base and stuff.
Supposed to have a really good next gen update.
I actually I'm
Don't tell me
bummed
that.
I didn't get the disc. No, I'm bummed I didn't get the disc PlayStation because I own it for PS4. And it was on sale for PS5, and I was confused. I was like, why don't I have this? And then I was like, because I have the disc version. And then I was going to buy it, and now it's back to $60. And I was like,
It certainly is right now. There's no. Might be bumped up to 80 after that win. But it's. I knew No Man's Sky was in good shape. I knew it was a success story. I knew it was doing well. I knew Hello Games had kind of reclaimed their integrity. Like I know Sean Murray was hopefully getting sleep now. I didn't think it was going to win. I did, especially this category. This kind of redefined my whole idea of what, because it has a lot of people that all have to vote for this, you know, and I didn't know that many people in this industry of ours played a lot of that game this year.
Totally, Jones.
And something that if it's going up against like a Destiny 2 and a, you know, Apex, these games that are just week by week by week, Fortnite, you know, constantly
wasn't even
adding
nominated.
things.
I saw Fortnite.
Right. And so, you know, just trying to invent new ways daily. And then here's No Man's Sky, just every 6 months or so, just boom, here's this huge thing that we've been working on. Enjoy it. We'll see you again in 6 months or so. And
I was equally surprised for that same reason because I've been wanting to dip back into the stuff they've put out this year, but I've been too busy. And I kind of assumed, because that was my experience, that most other people in our industry probably had that problem too. And so I was pleased that that wasn't the case. Enough of us had the time to jump in on the new stuff. Yeah.
And for those that are not going to check out the awards and don't care to get spoiled, best music was Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best art direction, Ghost of Tsushima. For that photo mode, I think more than anything, all those tweets people were making. Best action game was Hades, which feels good that it took home something. It also got best indie game.
That's the only one it got? Oh, no, it got indie game.
Best VR AR, Half-Life Alyx, thankfully. Best sports racing, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Take that, racing games. Most anticipated, Elden Ring, which is hilarious. I was like, now's the time. This is when you do it.
Well,
now you show the trailer.
We should have known, like, in hindsight now, because he said, there I said it, when he was reading the nominees.
Damn.
In hindsight, it's like, oh, he's telling us it's not here.
Don't panic, everyone. Sekiro was 2019.
Right.
We're only going into 2021. Do not panic.
Just play Demon's Souls again.
Elden Ring will come. Yes, we just got
but
Demon's Souls.
Weren't they on a 2-year? They didn't have anything to do with Demon's Souls.
I know.
Weren't they on a 2-year rotation for a while? So they're working on stuff.
It's a 3-year
game.
It's a 3-year game.
That's a 3-year.
It's gonna be a big one.
Yeah.
Plus, Gurm in there adds another 16 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Grim's trapped in a singularity. FF7 Remake was also the best role-playing game. Best sim strategy was Microsoft Flight Simulator. Player's voice was Ghost of Tsushima, which we knew before the event. Best fighting game was Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, but that was a weird category. And content creator was Valkyrie, who is very sweet, but not a content creator I'm familiar with. All of these other ones that I just rattled off seem pretty predictable. I felt like more than before, almost I called a lot of these. Like before they won, it was just like, you know, best sim, like probably Flight Simulator.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with that category. That's kind of, it rubs me the wrong way because yes, Flight Simulator is easily the most amazing game out of that group, but it just it doesn't belong with the rest of that group.
The only sim.
Yeah.
Right.
The rest were strategy games. Like Desperados 3 is incredible.
Yep. Crusader Kings 3, incredible.
Yeah, I think I thought Ori was maybe going to take art direction. But just a lot of these I feel good for, but was just not as there were a lot of surprises, I think, compared to previous Game Awards.
Well, yeah, well, I think that's the thing with me with Last of Us getting Game of the Year. It's like it's odd because it becomes less exciting because it's sort of predictable. You know, it's like like here's the thing that is clearly very good, so it's probably going to win it. But at the same time, I was sort of rooting for the others because, like Huber was saying, it just felt like, okay, there's buzz for some of these other games to where I could see them, you know, taking it. I could see it going to something that's not, you know, traditionally seen as the, you know, the Game of the Year type of game. You know, but it's hard because it's like when you look at what the game is doing, like it is doing all these other things that the other games just aren't doing, right? Yeah. Like Animal Crossing is not pushing voice actors to perform in extremely emotional ways.
Right. No mocap going for it.
Dude, the mocap in Last of Us Part 2 is...
Yeah.
It's on a whole nother level.
I just looked... Yeah, the animations are insane.
Yeah.
I just looked up every winner, Game of the Year winner from the Game Awards, and they all are not surprising choices, kind of.
Yeah.
By and large, Dragon Age Inquisition surprised me in 2014, but yeah, they're all, I don't want to say like populist, but and popular choice.
And certainly by the end of this show, we were like, The Last of Us. I would be surprised if something else snuck in at the end and picked that puppy up. Not nominated for any awards because of the silly release date that it had, Cyberpunk 2077 launched.
Oh yeah.
Today, last night.
If it hadn't gotten delayed, it would have been eligible, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. That was like the first thought when that got delayed.
Barely,
Like,
yeah.
oh shucks.
Probably though will
It
serve
needs
it
the
better
year to patch
because it
it.
needs the
Yeah.
year to fix all these bugs.
It needs the year.
Even though I knew it and had thought about it leading up to the Game Awards, when Keeley mentioned Fallen Order, he's like, nominated tonight. I was like, no, it's not. Oh, you're right. It is. It's nominated for Hades. Was like, get out of here. Fallen Order. So yeah, launched. Good news and bad news for this Cyberpunk, as we were talking about. I mean, this could be good news because it could be jolly. How's everybody's bugs doing? Any normal, any exceptional bugs?
I got a really funny one. It's
I
the
haven't
very
really had
beginning of the
anything.
game. Really,
Just
very
a
beginning
lot of
of the
like
game, not a spoiler.
skippy stuff, weird animations and stuff.
This car was coming into a car lot, and all of a sudden it just like rotated and like spun through the walls and just like appeared in front of me. It's like, whoa. It's crazy.
I was at Lizzie's bar and there was a woman just in T pose
Nice.
Oh yeah.
standing there.
See,
And
I
I was
heard a
like,
lot
wow,
of
okay.
T-pose stories. I
Lot of
haven't seen any
T-pose, yeah.
T-posing in
Oh.
my game.
Jason
I've
Schreier
had
has
one.
trees everywhere. There's little trees.
Wait,
everywhere,
really?
everywhere, like in the elevator, on his desk, on people's pants. You know, it's just like, what?
I've just had, and I think
badges.
for me it's mostly because of the ultra wide monitor, but like I've had lots of real weird HUD and resolution stuff. Like I've one that happens
Yeah.
pretty consistently is if I go into a cutscene or in one of some certain menus, it'll go 1080, just black bars on the side, and then if I just escape out and come back, it's full screen again, or wide again.
Ugh.
Lots of weird stuff like that, like HUD elements.
Yeah, it's a
Just
real
staying
challenge
up.
with those monitors. I've always seen that kind of thing.
Blood, you had your car physically assault you at one point, right?
Nearly. Yeah, that's probably the funniest thing I've had so far. So I was coming out of this cramped alleyway, there's some barricades and trash cans and dumpsters, just alley stuff. And so there's like a dead end street that came up to it, it's like an industrial area. And so like, okay, I'll walk up to the street and then I'll call my car, expecting my car to drive down the street towards me. And I hit the button and then like I hear like all this commotion behind me. I'm like, what is going on? And I turn around and my car had come through the alleyway and then like flipped itself upside down and then was just there upside down like on the wrong side of the barricade. And I'm like, can I flip my car? I guess not. And so then I just went up the street a little bit, hit the button again, and then like my car blew up and respawned and it charged me $80 or something like that. But
I definitely had a thing where I was standing on the curb, perfect placement for my car to show up. I called it, and it showed up, and then just drove right past me, and went like 200 meters away, and then I called it again, and then it went down somewhere, and then I just kind of gave up and walked. I was just like, all right, whatever.
I had an Uber experience. It was similar to that once.
Yeah.
Hey, lots of bugs. Still, fastest
Lots
selling
of
PC
bugs.
game ever. Fastest selling PC game
what,
ever.
7 years of hype will do for you.
That's
Not launching
Thermonuclear
on next gen consoles, I think, pushed a lot of people to go with a PC version.
Yeah.
Obviously, CD Projekt Red, PC centric with their long history. Obviously, this is a game that single handedly pushed 3080s. I feel like everyone
yeah.
had been upgrading their computers for this game, so the PC hype around it, in conjunction with it not launching on next gen, of course, just PC all day for this game.
I feel like a chump with my 2080 Super that I got like months before the 3080s were announced. Still don't have a 3080.
oh yeah, I mean
Dude, I'm playing on PS5, Ian.
there are far more copies of this game sold than 3080s in existence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're lucky you're playing on PS5. We'll get to the performance on PS4 in a second. Fastest selling PC game ever as of yesterday. It was not.
Wow.
World of Warcraft
Day zero.
Shadowlands was the fastest selling PC game ever and was previously the headline that we were going to discuss at this point.
Wow.
And then Blood messaged me today and he was like, whoops, well, that was a fun story for a day. But it has been dethroned. 4.72 million copies of Cyberpunk 2077 were sold. 8 million pre-orders. 74% of those pre-orders were digital and 59% of those pre-orders were on PC.
And the crazy thing about that number is I don't know how they end up like tracking these things, but like we said, we are still on launch day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like that was just like early on. So like the final number for the first day of launch
Yeah.
has not been really out there yet, or maybe like right now as we're recording they put it out there.
Well, and a crazy rollout because like I pre-ordered it on Tuesday night, Wednesday, whatever, and it said unlocks in like 16 hours, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that's not 9 p.m. Wednesday, and yeah, it like went live at 4.
Yeah, went
PST.
live in Central European time worldwide.
Oh, okay, so that was cool. Didn't get to play it until 9 anyway because it was working.
They
on stuff
couldn't
for
do
it.
that with consoles. I think there's restrictions on how consoles roll their thing out. But yeah, for PC, there's like everyone's just gonna get it at the same time.
Interesting.
And just as impressive, according to PC Gamer, there were 1,003,264 people playing it at its peak on Steam on launch night. 1 million. Wow. That is
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's
I mean-
That's a record too, right?
that's a record for launch day. So that when it get like right when a game hits Steam for everyone to come rushing in, that is a crazy number.
I think it's so interesting because earlier in the show we were talking about BioWare announcing their games too early, you know?
Yeah.
And like, oh, I don't like this, you know, it's de-hyping me. Like, and here this game is that has been shown for 7 years. You know, talk about showing
It was
your
announced
game.
7 years ago. It hasn't been shown for 7 years. It's really
been
only been
shown
shown
for
for the last
4.
3. I would say it's 3. I think 3 years
3,
ago was when
yeah.
like the cycle started to kick back up again. Because it was 2 E3s that we got the gameplay demos.
But clearly announcing your game way too early paid off.
Because of that gap. Because they came out and then gone. Whereas like, you know, Mass Effect is not in that position right now. Elder Scrolls is not in that position right now. Like
Right,
these
but
are
we go
games
back.
where-
We go back to like what we were saying about where BioWare is right now on shaky
Right.
ground. You know, and CD Projekt went from
well,
first Witcher game to Witcher 2, massive improvement. Witcher
Huge.
3, massive improvement.
Huge.
So like just the expectations is for there to be a massive improvement, and you know, and like I haven't gotten far enough to say whether that's borne out yet. Like right now, I'm enjoying the game, but I'm not like blown away by it.
Yeah.
But that's where the hype is. You know, like people don't even know anything about Cyberpunk. I think a lot of
Witcher
people don't
3.
realize it's an adapted franchise like The Witcher was. You know, it's like, but because of how good and how much improvement there was between games, then yeah.
this beat the previous record holder, which had less than half of those views on launch day. What game was that? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, the Twitch views?
What PC game? No, this is
Fortnite.
concurrent. This is not Twitch views. This is concurrent players on Steam.
Okay,
Over
you
a
said
million
views,
people
so that's
played
why I was
on Steam.
confused.
Sorry.
Among
Uh,
Us.
So not
At launch.
Diablo.
Remember, Among Us had a weird launch story. Big PC game. Also lots of bugs at launch.
Skyrim.
Skyrim, then yeah.
Fallout
Witcher
4
3.
in 2015.
Oh, okay.
472,962.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
And the
Yeah.
number one record holder of all time, it was not on launch that it hit this peak. But the most players of the people have ever consecutively played one game on Steam. Which game and how many players?
Steam.
It's a big game. Not as big
Single
as it used to be.
player or just any game?
Counter-Strike.
It is not single player, and it used to be
Counter-Strike?
this big. It's not that big anymore because another game kind of crept along.
PUBG?
And
PUBG.
PUBG in January of 2018 hit 3.3 million at once. We're all playing that game at once. So
And what was Cyberpunk's?
1 million, but that was launch. So it was specifically
launch
like that
day?
launch night. So
I'm fascinated or curious to see what in like a week or two what the general discourse, like what the general populace thinks of Cyberpunk, because like I'm somewhere between 3 and 10 hours into this game. I have no idea, and I have no idea what I think of it.
yeah.
Right.
I think
Like there's
in
a
the
lot of stuff I like, a lot of stuff I'm like
Ben
just-
has definitely told me that like I've seen nothing yet, so yeah.
Right. We were talking about it before that we taped here today, and it's like it's so visually dense that I'm finding my brain is like having trouble
Overload.
parsing
It's tiring.
anything.
It's tiring. Not to mention
Yeah.
it's like neon and like
Yeah.
we were talking about what to turn off, and I turned off.
Yeah.
I turned off. What am I thinking? Just reflections
Chromatic
or something.
aberration?
No, it's like the
Lens flare?
Lens flare.
Lens flare?
We
Yeah,
go to
lens
that first
flare's a big
club.
one.
I was like,
Yeah.
enough. This is ridiculous.
Well, it's
Yeah.
it's too, it's wild to think like when I booted it up, just with all the hype, and again, CD Projekt Red coming off Witcher 3, it's almost unfair, but it's like they asked for it because this game has been shown for so long. I went in, it's like, okay, how are you going to change video games? How are you going to do things that I've never seen before and propel this entire industry forward? And then just in the first couple of minutes, it's like, okay, feels the same as some games
they're
here.
not.
But, yeah. But it's like that's such a like almost unwinnable place to be in. Like just the expectations are so sky high.
It definitely feels like some of the things that it's doing are either subtle or reserved for, like we were saying, the people on the highest graphics cards. Because like, Ben and I were talking about, because he had played a lot of it, because we're in like this uncertainty with the pre-release build and performance stuff. And so he had played a lot of it on just kind of normal settings with ray tracing off. And then once we got retail in and stuff, and he turned no, it wasn't retail, it was when we got the final NVIDIA drivers for Cyberpunk. He turned ray tracing on and he started checking things out again, and he was like, oh, this game is, I've never seen a game like built around ray tracing like this. Like just it's like a night and day kind of difference in how a lot of the world looks, and some of it is really subtle, but then you get into other areas and it's just like the reflectivity on everything is just
the Eurogamer article praising the visuals is really awesome. Just talking about how if you have the rig that can do max graphics, like you're getting it. They compared it to Crysis when Crysis came out. They're like, yes, this is a Crysis moment. This is
and next then gen. The density of crowds, like Ian was saying, like there's just so much going on. Crowds and booths and stalls, and it's kind of like, honestly, Ian, it's kind of like being in Japan.
Yeah, well, it feels like Japan. Yeah.
It's just like when you're in a train station in Japan and you just feel so overwhelmed. I'm like, where am I supposed to go right now?
Yeah. Where am I? Who am I? Yeah. Well, and it was a fun moment because I definitely had that moment, Huber, where I was like playing it and I was like, oh right, it's just an open world game. Like I don't know what I was thinking. I know, I don't know. I had like tricked myself into thinking it was something else. But I had a fun moment where I was like looking on the map trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to be doing. And I saw a clothing store and I was like, oh cool, I'll go look at this clothing store. And I pulled up and it's like up a level and I'm like, okay. So I get out of my car, run up the stairs, and it's just this punk ass dude with like a clothing rack on the side of like this walkway. And I was like, oh cool, okay. Like I expected a store, it was just like a fun, dense kind of city moment.
I'm gonna love all those stories. I want to hear everyone's stories in a couple
I definitely
weeks.
recommend getting out to do because that's the thing. Like I kind of paused where I was at in the story, and like I've basically got nowhere in the story, and just went out and did some smaller side quests, and then like got out to some of these areas that are less crowded and a little bit more like you said, like easier to digest because there isn't quite as much going on some of the outskirts or like industrial parts of town.
That's like going to the wilderness in Red Dead Jones, just hanging out there.
Oh yeah. There's a really good Polygon article about things that they wish they'd known when they started, and one of them is like take your time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm taking that to heart because I realized pretty quickly that like this is the kind of game where if I'm not like living in it, I'm probably not gonna like it as much.
Ian, I've already made a decision where like usually I commit to one or two games and I try to get through them till the end. I've already decided like I'm gonna take 3 months to beat this game. I've already decided. I am
Until
not
Goaties, I guess.
Yeah, I am not beating this
month
game
and a half.
for
3 weeks,
many months.
Yeah, 3 weeks. We got 3 weeks.
I don't know, man. I'm corpo. Time is money. Anytime all those little blue text options at the bottom. Nah, I'm time for this. Anytime somebody's like, "Hey, I got this thing. Do you want that?" I'm like, "Let me put that in my head." Okay, let's go.
I was also corpo.
I'll tell you what's not the rig to play this game. Apparently, the PlayStation 4 is not the system you want to be playing Cyberpunk 2077. Have you seen the videos?
Yeah,
of this
not
game?
Really yet.
My favorite.
15
I saw one
FPS.
guy. I saw one guy playing
12.
an oboe on Twitch. It was just like, just like wandering down the street. Specifically, just the textures. It's just anywhere you look, anywhere you go.
Wait, he was playing an oboe in game?
No, he was
in real life.
Like in real life. Just adding his own depressed soundtrack to, and the sadness, the melancholiness of the oboe perfectly matched the texture quality of this game running on PlayStation 4, which, and this is base PlayStation 4, which is just like so far from a 3080, souped up rig at this point. Yeah. These are possibly 2 generations apart. I mean,
it's unfortunate. I know the PS5 and the Series X versions in the next 6 months will get there. Witcher 3 on console started rough. Obviously, they got there. Witcher 1 and 2 had full-on enhanced additions. I imagine Series X and PS5 getting really nice updates. I just wish, they scrapped these base versions. I know, obviously, marketing and the money people and financials and install user bases are way bigger on those machines, but it's almost like I wish they could have just taken those resources and launched, these current gen versions now. But, this game got delayed so many times. It's a COVID year.
Yeah, well, just a different example from what I hear, Miles Morales runs pretty well on PlayStation 4. I haven't heard a lot of complaints.
Yeah, right.
I'm certainly not seeing weird textures like this.
And I don't want to.
I
don't want to sound like
it's crashed like 3 times.
I think the PS5 version went up. I think they took the PS4 version and made it look better for PS5, and this was kind of like a downgrade from the way the game was originally built.
And I don't want to sound like I'm poo-pooing on people that don't have access to PS5 or Series X and don't have access to high-end PCs, but the difference here is that these versions barely even run. Yeah. It'd be one thing if they ran fine, it's the equivalent of low settings. It doesn't look very good, but it's stable. These versions,
it's like
just barely run. Why even put this out?
Yeah. I've got a PC that exceeds minimum requirements by a lot. I don't have a 3080, but otherwise I'm way up there. Still doesn't run great all the time.
Yeah.
It's a CD Projekt Red game in the first month.
When Jackie calls in, at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, when the face starts bugging, it's like a skull on it. It's kind of like that. It's like, is that you, Jackie? Who is this? Is that a ghost? Oh, Jackie.
And that's contributing to me taking my time with the game too, because I want to get to some patches. I'm in no rush. Please get some patches out.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting is I did see somebody pointing out that there's a really there's this big montage early in the game with you and Jackie, and somebody pointed out that this thing running on the PS4 is insane. They want to see somebody break it down because it shouldn't be able to do all these quick cuts in these different environments this quickly on a PS4 at all. It just shouldn't work.
Could have been pre-recorded, right?
No, it's not. It's very clearly real time. They knew what they're talking about, but
it's
more than I do.
Tsushima quick load times on PS4.
But yeah, at the same time, it does seem very rough in a lot of ways, and I think the big takeaway is that it feels unfair for them to have put that version out there without anybody getting a chance to see it. It's maybe they wouldn't want to do something themselves and show off a trailer of the game running, but at least give it to Digital Foundry or whoever to show people the differences. And then, and they could also highlight, hey, they actually got this thing running at all, it being, somewhat of an achievement. But, because it's almost like looking at the Switch version of Witcher 3, right? It feels like it's on that level from the way people describe it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but do people who buy the PS4 and Xbox One versions get the upgrade?
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe they do. Yeah. So there's that element to it too, I guess.
Sure, but you only seen the game that's running. Right. Not just the PC version, but you've only seen it on whatever impossible mega build, that most people are never going to have. It probably costs a $5,000 build or something like that. And then the morning before launch day, journalists were able to publish their video, their capture of it running on a standard, what most people are going to have in their homes. But even probably better than that. And so really, it wasn't until somebody downloads the PS4 version or gets a PS4 copy that anyone even saw what a console version looked like. No journalists had console versions to review.
Well, they released their own, obviously, in-house video. They did a PS4 Pro versus
Did they?
PS5 video that was like the first
I remember
10 or
that, yeah.
so minutes.
Okay.
That was like the
Does
only...
the PS5 enhance it at all?
It does,
or-
it does. And it boosted to 60, which is nice.
Okay.
Okay.
It has the potential to hit 60.
Yeah, Omar's been playing it on
Quicker
on
load
that.
times, some better visuals, of course, but nowhere near, obviously, PC and not the true PS5 Series X.
Yeah, that's
Version.
the ray tracing, all that stuff's going to come later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just feel like it's strange because with The Witcher, and they haven't done this as much, but when Witcher 3 was coming out, like they were being very like they're basically acting like the underdog and the good guys, right? It's like, hey, we're not going to have DRM, we're not going to nickel and dime you for all these DLCs, we're going to give you all this extra free stuff, literal horse armor and stuff to make fun of Bethesda. And then this time it's like, hey, we're not going to show you the PS4 version. And then people get it, and chances are patches will improve it by a significant degree, but it's still it comes across the wrong way.
Totally.
Something they were also a little sneaky about, a little shadowy, would have helped them to do a little bit more research, was the fact that the brain dances in this game can potentially give you seizures. Game Informer's Liana Ruppert wrote a PSA that a lot of people carried, that she said she suffered one seizure while playing the game and could feel others coming on and knew to look away, whenever she was, queuing up a brain dance. And this has had a very positive effect. An Attack Corgi on Patreon actually submitted this for the Silver Lining this week. They said, quote, "They're exploring a more permanent solution, and they're adding a warning to the game already. You don't have to play the game long if you stick to, of course, you can just leave the main story if you want to. But last night I stuck to the main story, and it did not take me long to get to this point. And it is not only something that is kind of similar to something that might induce a seizure. It is extremely similar to like literal technology that is designed to do that. It is like the
Right.
same colored lights, the same type of repetition. And it is fascinating how this got past, everybody in the development, everybody that was testing
Yeah.
it, everybody that was at preview events, everybody, that kind of nobody raised this red flag.
Well,
So
that's actually one of the things I was surprised by, Brandon, is because this was shown off in a preview months ago,
many. Yeah.
and it didn't get it didn't attract any attention there.
Did it have the headset?
Yeah.
Because I remember the brain dance part, but I don't remember the headset blinking at you.
I think you remember
In
a
the
trailer that was shown before the
video.
actual hands-on, where people got to play through
Oh.
that specific segment. I mean, it just shows that, again, we're seeing, I think Xbox just released a video. They're doing a documentary series on accessibility in games. The Game Awards just gave out an award for it that we mentioned that Last of Us won. So I think what you're going to start to see is, at preview events like this, but I want to specifically bring in people that, represent certain communities that could potentially have problems with
Right.
this. Because I've never, in my entire life of playing games, and in my half of that life that I've been covering video games professionally, I have never heard of a game that just straight up does it, like a light switch. I mean, it is potentially very dangerous. But Liana added on Twitter, which is again why this would be and make an excellent silver lining. Quote, "Since this started, I've had 4 major AAA studios reach out to me saying that this article has caused them to reevaluate their dev process and be more inclusive regarding neurological accessibility."
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So-
great.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a really
It
great
is-
piece. It does a lot to go into the details of not just the brain dance, but other situations where that can come up. And what's also nice is they acted and responded to that immediately. They put a seizure warning on there before launch that wasn't there in the earlier build. And then hopefully, it won't take them that long to figure out. Because to me, all you have to do is have a toggle where okay, just turn those lights off, or have them just be static lights on that visor when that scene pops up. I'm not sure about the other situations, how much more they'll have to do to tweak those, but I think that one there should be a simple solution.
So many conversations happening now.
Yeah.
DICE actually just announced some of the panels that they're going to be doing coming up, and a couple of those are on accessibility. It's just a lot of these conversations that we weren't having just 12 months ago. So
Well, and it's a little strange too, though, because like, I mean, we're kind of framing this as a positive, but I think it is a little. I mean, my girlfriend has epilepsy, so I was getting her kind of take on this, you know.
Oh yeah.
And like, she, you know, pointed out like it's kind of absurd that this is in the game at all. Like, it's literally, like it won't like may cause seizures. It will.
Mm-hmm.
It's a device made to induce seizures in people with photosensitive epilepsy. Like, that's what that is. There's a movie called I want to say Thelma, something like that, that we went to see that didn't have a warning until we were in there, and the main character has epilepsy and they induce seizures, and my girlfriend had to leave because you know, we didn't know that was going to happen, you know. And like, it seems a little absurd that it would get this far in the game without them knowing it. And I think, you know, much has been made of if there is or is not transphobia in this game. And I'm playing it so far. I haven't really seen anything that has tripped me up in that about that at all, really, so far in the game. But like, it seems to me that CD Projekt Red, one of their flaws might be that they don't think of things until someone tells them to, with some of this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to do it unless someone calls them on it because they don't think about it. I don't think I'm just whistling Dixie here. Like, that just seems to be their kind of modus operandi, because like, they've addressed things when people call them on it, but they have happened in the first place, you know. So I'm happy that this incident has led to other things, like those other companies being, you know, saying that article made them consider this sort of stuff. But it's a little weird, I think, and that it was there in the first place.
And more just the AAA developers, the industry in general is very, you know, supportive, and it was nice to see somebody not only just, you know, pointing this out, you know, from a editorial standpoint, but from personal experience, being like, this is something that happened to me. So it's not just a warning that I would suggest based on something I could conceivably see happening. This happened to me. It was very unfortunate. It could potentially be very dangerous and deadly. And it's just it's that deadliness that doesn't come up a lot.
It can kill people.
It doesn't come up a lot in games. You don't necessarily hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I am curious about is because, you know, I've seen epilepsy warnings on, like, specifically Nintendo games for ages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Immortals, Phoenix Rising has one at the beginning.
Yeah, and they had theirs. It was there, but it was like one of those things that's like in the instruction, you know, thing, legal text, like EULA and type of stuff that's like buried before, you know, this was brought up, and they just put it on before the title screen. But it makes me curious how much more of this is there that just hasn't been called out versus like, no, this is just like over the top crazy town.
This example of it was, Incredibles 2 got a lot of flack for it because it does a similar thing, and it's like rapid white flashes.
Oh,
rapid
yeah.
red and white flashes.
Oh, I missed that.
That is designed to cause seizures like that. And I'm not saying that Incredibles 2 wanted to cause seizures, but like, they should have known better.
Right.
And this, should have too.
I think the reason why
I was saying to her was, because I got to that part, and I was like, well, I got to that part, I wonder if they changed it because it was really short. And she was saying, like, sometimes it only takes like a couple of flashes and you're gone.
Sure.
You know, and it's just like, all right, whoa, did not know that. Like, scary. Yeah. And
but
I
I'm
think
just wondering if
games all say it because it's just cover your own ass, like legal, you know, because video games are flashing lights, you know.
Right. Well, like even driving and like Burnout or something and going by a crosswalk, like that pattern can do it.
I remember a friend told me one time they were on a bus and they were driving through a city, and the sunlight coming through the buildings and the bus windows. They were just like, oh, you know, they got very close. I don't think they actually did have a seizure, but good stuff to know. And again, I like that Keeley seemed very proud at the Game Awards today when he was like, and this will be an award, this accessibility award forever, as long as I'm doing the Game Awards.
But I think that's part of why this has become more of a talking point, is because the industry has talked a lot about this in the past year or 2 years. And so now it's not just like, hey, put a warning up and those people won't play your game.
Right.
It's, no, we've got to find a way to address this, especially if it's
Right.
something like this where you have a 30-40 hour game and like, oh, because of scenes that last 30 seconds, you have to avoid it. Like, that's really
Right.
crappy for those people.
And like that's why I love Last of Us 2 for that, because it had so many just really well thought out, thoughtful. Like, this game doesn't have much audio description either. I don't think. Cyberpunk. And yeah, I just think I want every game to take that example from Last of Us 2. And like, yeah, it's not easy. It's a lot of extra work and a lot of extra money, and not every game can afford it. But I think it's definitely something, and I'm really glad that, yeah, like you said, Bloodworth, that people are being listened to now more than they were before, it seems like.
But we will see, as you were saying, Huber, this will be a game people will be talking about for a while. It's going to be interesting to see. And like you were saying, Ian, with the trans representation, it'll be interesting seeing. We just need to play a lot of this game, to really have, a definitive answer on a lot of that stuff. So the conversation will continue.
Yeah.
Also, this week, Halo Infinite is coming out in fall 2021. We knew it was coming out next year. Now we know it's coming out in fall 2021. I actually got a lot of notes here that we're not going to get into in detail, but they got a big blog post. The team was very aware that people didn't like it. I think one of my favorite quotes was, "I can confirm that the facial animation on NPCs was not fully implemented in that build, which resulted in Craig's incredibly deadpan, lifeless look. We're also working to add hairdos and beards to Covenant."
These poor bastards. Like,
There's a lot of stuff that they were like, "Oh yeah, we just didn't have that in the build." It's like, you mean the build that came out 2 months before the game was going to launch?
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's a lot of stuff. You didn't have that build there.
Wait a minute.
Debut gameplay trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to dig into these also at length, but I do want to bring up a couple of these. Google's most searched terms of 2020 came out. Among Us and Fall Guys were 1 and 2.
Wow.
Google's most searched terms in gaming.
Okay.
And of the where to buy blank 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 terms, number 1, PlayStation 5, ahead of toilet
Masks.
paper and face masks.
Wow.
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 Xbox Series X was number
Priorities.
4. Xbox Series number 4 did crack the
good.
top 5.
That's good.
Just beating out hand sanitizer. Take that, hand sanitizer.
Priorities.
Of the most searched games, Jackbox was number 10, which I thought was very cool. But I kind of had that reaction. But when you think about it, it's a very
How do you
easy
get to
game
the
to
website?
play for free. And so I imagine there were a lot of parties, a lot of Zoom calls. It was like, "Hey, let's play Jackbox," and then like Grandma's like, "What's Jackbox?" And she's got to look it up and see.
Yeah.
You heard me, Grandma. And eye-opening to see Genshin Impact at number 4 on the most searched terms, beating out Animal Crossing, beating out Last of Us, beating out Last of Us. Interesting. And just
I wonder if
expected
some of
stuff.
that has to do with, because,
Guides.
well, I don't know about guides maybe, but the thing I was thinking is Genshin Impact does not run through like Steam or Epic or
Right.
anything like that. So it's like you
You
got
have
to
to
figure
search
out,
for
how
it
do
to
I
get
get
it.
this game?
What a
Like, you have to
call.
go to their website.
Excellent call.
What a call.
Also, you have to search for it to be like, what the hell is Genshin
Exactly.
Impact? Why is everyone talking about it?
YouTube also released their top games of 2020. There were 100 billion hours watched of gaming content on YouTube this past year, 40 million active gaming channels. And what was number 1? Just curious. Number 1, most watched game and most streamed game on YouTube
Of the year?
Of the year.
Fortnite.
Fortnite's number 5 on the watched list, number 3 on the streamed list.
Among
Yeah,
Us.
GTA Online, right?
Minecraft.
Phasmophobia?
Minecraft.
Oh, of course, Minecraft.
GTA is on the 4 of both lists. The 3rd most watched game and the 2nd most streamed game, Garena Free Fire.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Technically, it's
Chinese
called
games,
Free.
man.
It's called Free Fire. It's a battle royale game.
Yep.
It's basically like you take Fortnite and PUBG, put them together. It looks like a PUBG player is playing Fortnite. That's kind of like the style. Very, very mobile. Definitely looks like a mobile game. IGN has some footage if you want to check that out. But beat Fortnite for most streamed. Minecraft number 1, Garena Free Fire number 2, and Fortnite number 3.
One must remember that America, not that important
No.
market.
Nope. Just missed this in the last podcast. Woke up the next morning after cutting the podcast to find out that Oscar Isaac is Solid Snake, baby, in the Metal Gear Solid
Yeah.
movie that Sony's putting together. PAX announced the dates for East, West, and Unplugged. East is going to be on June 3rd. West is going to be on September 3rd, and Unplugged is going to be on December 10th, or not.
No, they're
Fingers
not.
crossed.
Yeah, they said we'll see,
June?
but
No.
let's just clear those dates for now. Also missed this in the last podcast. Keiichiro Toyama from Silent Hill, Siren, and Gravity Rush fame left SIE Japan to establish Bokeh Game Studio. So he is not at Sony anymore. Started his own studio. GameStop has closed 462 stores this year, 783 in the last 2 years.
Wow.
But they're going to turn things around, I think. Control has sold more than 2 million units.
Hey,
Nice.
Remedy Games.
Fastest selling Remedy IP since Max Payne.
Very cool.
there you go.
Are we getting Control 2, Huber? Control 2?
We're getting the Control Remedy universe, Brandon
Cinematic
Jones.
universe,
Yeah, we're getting
yeah.
the Remedy universe.
So Alan Wake
Yeah.
2 with Control? Alan Wake Cross Control?
Alan Wake.
I know we got the
Control
DLC,
crossover
but I
game.
mean, I'm talking about the next game.
Who has the rights to Max Payne?
Rockstar.
Is it
Rockstar, yeah.
Rockstar?
Yeah, it's
But
Rockstar
it's
now.
Still Rockstar?
Can Remedy put Max
No, man.
Payne in this universe?
No.
Don't think
Do
so.
we want Max
No.
Payne in this universe?
But Max Payne can be in
Yes.
Fortnite. Call of Duty made $3 billion this year. $3
Jeez.
billion. That's across Cold War, Modern Warfare, mobile, and Warzone. Up 80% from their profits
Warzone
year over
killing it.
year.
Warzone killing it.
Yep. Twitch updated their policies, which started on January 22nd. Lots of interesting stuff in there. Lots of stuff to help people be a little more civil on that in that community, but specifically removed the blind playthrough tag. That is a terminology that I'm fairly used to. But that is something
I'm not in agreement on that. I'm not going to go into I'm not going to go into a rant on it, but I don't.
Send your comments to Daniel Bloodworth. Activision Blizzard
I don't
sued
agree with that
Netflix. Activision Blizzard sued
I
Netflix.
want to hear your thoughts on that.
It's not an insulting term.
It is to blind people.
I mean, you're
It's
not blind.
actually,
You can't.
But
I'll check.
Why? How do
We'll
you
check.
know?
Yeah, we'll see with the comments. I'll check with some blind people for next podcast.
yeah.
Activision
But I mean, it's like,
Blizzard.
there's people that I respect that are behind on the other side. So it's
got
it's a hard thing. Like, I don't, like, so I'm saying, I don't want to fight about it.
Activision Blizzard sued Netflix over CFO Spencer Newman over his Activision Blizzard contract. Apparently, he bailed from Blizzard Activision and went over to Netflix. His contract was not out yet. They were not a fan. Medal of Honor Above and Beyond is 340 gigs. It loses 170 of those when you install it, but still, man, excited for that. But that's a lot of gigs.
Hefty.
Project Athea will be a console exclusive on PlayStation 5 for, quote, at least 24 months. Facebook launched a Black Gaming Creator Program. They're going to spend $10 million over 2 years to try to incentivize and support Black gaming creators on their channels. The Division 2's Codename Nightmare event was canceled, citing issues with COVID. Kratos is now in Fortnite, which we also missed just barely in the last podcast. It was rumored, but hadn't officially been announced until we were recording. He looks awesome doing silly dances. Reminds me of when people were freaked out over Disney Infinity. Like, can we have these two characters doing this? And Fortnite's like, people don't care. It's not going to damage. People aren't, when Ragnarok comes out, well, he did that dance in Fortnite. I don't know if I can get into this.
Can't take him seriously anymore.
Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake was delayed to March 18th. It's not that far away. Xbox Game Pass coming to iOS in spring of 2021. As Huber mentioned right before we started recording, a new Spider-Man Miles Morales patch lets you play at 60 FPS with ray tracing on.
Came out at the perfect time. I was going through this game, and I love my 60 frames, but I also love how good it looks with ray tracing on. So this came out, and it's the best of both worlds. This patch gives me hope for future games.
It's going to be a good gen.
Oh, it's awesome. It's a really good patch. 10 out of 10.
And as we theorized on this podcast, Switch was the top-selling console of November. 1.3 million units sold, a 24-month U.S. best-selling console record. For 2 years, it has been the number one selling console every single month. Well done, Switch.
Craziness.
Jeez.
Very curious how things will happen once we actually have stock on next gen.
Yeah, enough PS5s. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, even with PS5s and Xboxes completely selling through, it still beat them.
Yeah.
Still beat it.
Gotta stock those puppies. It is now time for Love and Respect.
Love and respect.
From Corey Swafford. Hello, panel. How well do you know your friend and fellow ally Michael Huber? How well does Michael Huber know himself?
Not well.
Here's a quiz to find out. I have gathered several claims made by the hype man himself, and you must decide which answer is correct. Love and respect, Corey. Note, I've also included the videos as well as the times in which the quote is said. One of his favorite weapons in first-person shooter history. Is it the Tesla gun from Wolfenstein 2009, the shotgun from Doom 2016, the gravity gun from Half-Life 2, or the gravity hammer from Halo 3?
Option 2.
Huber?
I've said it about 2 of these guns I know for a fact. I've said it about the Tesla gun in Wolfenstein, and I've said it about the shotgun in
Favorite
Doom.
weapons in first-person shooter history?
It's got to be the Doom shotgun.
It is the Tesla gun from Wolfenstein 2009. You made that claim during Frame Trap episode 41.
Yes.
1 hour, 52 minutes in.
Dude, Nazis fucking disintegrate and explode. It is so satisfying.
Oh, we'll
10
get
out of 10.
We'll get to Nazis. Best use of fan service and nods to a sequel that he's ever seen in his entire life. Was it A, Yakuza 6, B, Resident Evil 7, C, Evil Within 2, or D, Borderlands 2? Best use of fan service and nods to a sequel that he's ever seen in his entire life. Yakuza 6, RE7, Evil Within 2, Borderlands 2.
I want to say Evil Within 2.
I want to
Yakuza.
say Yakuza?
Evil Within 2, ding, 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 ding. Frame Trap episode 41, 52 minutes in.
What about? What the hell am I even talking about?
Fan service and nods to a sequel. Oh, yeah.
What?
Probably
I'm out
when
of
you
my
were on
mind.
about- You're probably when you were on about needing an Evil Within 3.
One of his favorite guilty pleasures as a human being. A, mindless action games. B, the Call of Duty Zeitgeist. C, Dragon Ball GT. Or D, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents
Call of Duty
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Zeitgeist.
Got it.
Yeah.
Frame
Love
Trap
the Call of
episode
Duty
42.
Zeitgeist.
Back-to-back frame
Wait,
traps at an hour
What
38
other
in.
creatures have guilty pleasures besides human beings?
Dolphins, probably.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, his favorite puzzles in video games. 2 video games named. A, Uncharted 2 and Resident Evil. B, Resident Evil and God of War. C, God of War and Shenmue. Or D, Shenmue and Resident Evil. That's a silly one.
God of War and Resident Evil.
Yeah. God of War,
Yeah.
Resident Evel.
Correct. Frame Trap episode 51, 28. One of the most mind-blowing things of all time.
I've said that like 3,000 times.
A, Gears of War on an HD TV when it first came out. B, first time playing Grand Theft Auto 3. C, first time playing online multiplayer. D, Resident Evil 7 reveal at E3. One of the most mind-blowing things.
A. It's
Of all
A,
time.
baby. Chainblade in HD? Right?
Yeah, Frame Trap episode
Yeah.
52. 2 hours in. Favorite subtitle for a game of all time. A, Code Veronica. B, The New Colossus. C, Ghost of Sparta. Or D, The Song of Life.
I know
Song
this
of
one.
Life.
Song of Life.
Yeah.
That's out of Huber Syndrome. What I'm playing. 5 minutes in. Some of his favorite enemies to fight in all of video games.
Oh, I know this one too.
A, the Nazis from Wolfenstein. B, the Lickers from Resident Evil 2. C, the Locust from Gears of War. Or D, the Covenant from Halo.
B.
I know this. It's
Yeah,
unexpected.
I want to say Lickers.
It's unexpected. It's locusts.
It's Locusts.
Yeah.
locusts.
Yeah.
Great enemies.
The Easy Allies podcast, 112. 47 minutes in.
Nice.
You should be able to get this one too. The worst story ever told in a video game, period. A, Fear 2. B, Mortal Kombat 9. C, Destiny. Or D, Far Cry 5.
Far Cry 5 or Mortal Kombat 9, I feel like.
Destiny.
Far Cry.
Destiny's a pretty good guess. It's
Far Cry 5.
The,
Ugh.
the Patreon Q&A from May 2018, 52 minutes in.
I'm waiting for one of these to be all of the above.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
last
what I
one
was
from
waiting
Corey
for, too.
Oh,
Swafford.
I was waiting for that.
Corey,
I
that
was
was a
waiting
lot
for
of
all
fun.
of the
Thank you for
above.
that. That guy watches
was
a lot of
fun.
Huber shows. From Scenic Bane, hello allies. Recently, I've started playing Crash Bandicoot 4, and I'm absolutely loving it. From the visuals to the gameplay, everything is clicking for me, and it's by far one of my favorite games of the year. But then about halfway through, the worst possible thing involving a 3D platformer occurred. The left analog stick on my DualShock 4 stopped working. Since PS4 controllers and gaming-related accessories in general are pretty expensive in my country, I couldn't get one right away, and I had to wait for my next paycheck. But I was having so much fun with the game, I didn't want to stop playing, so I did the unthinkable. I played a 3D platformer using the D-pad.
Yes.
All in all, it wasn't that bad. And aside from a sore thumb, it didn't ruin the experience from the game. My question to the panel is, what was the last time you played a game in less than ideal circumstances? Love and respect, Scenic Bane.
Cyberpunk 2077 on PS5.
Earlier today, Cyberpunk.
Oh my god!
But that's a hard way. That's nothing. Nothing happened to the system when you did it. That was the system you signed up for, baby.
I went to sleep last night in my brain knowing, like, why don't you just wait? You will enjoy this game more no matter what if you wait. So therefore, I am enjoying it in less than ideal circumstances. Because it is a fact. If you wait a couple months, this game will be better.
I can retell my Final Fantasy V story. Do you remember this one, Jones? So,
Sorry, do not.
Final Fantasy V, for people who may not be aware, did not originally come out in the US.
Right.
I did not get that game until the PlayStation collection, the Anthology. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Anthology. And I had messed around with it a little bit, but I was so disgusted with the audio bugs on Final Fantasy VI that I kind of had set this whole thing aside, the whole collection aside. I never really got into 5. And then it was probably somewhere in the ballpark of close to 10 years later, I'm like, I'm going to start catching up on Final Fantasy games. And I'm like, well, my PS3 is backwards compatible. I'll take the PS3 with me home for Christmas or whatever, and I'll play through Final Fantasy V. And I started in on it, and I started getting probably one of the worst kinds of bugs you can get in an RPG, to where sometimes when I would save, the game would crash. And so I decided that, I looked it up and I found out that there's this very specific issue with playing that PS1 version on a PS3. But I was out of town, so I didn't have the option to just pull out a PS1 or a PS2. All I had was the PS3 with me. So I decided, I'll just keep it on. I'll just keep it on and then switch the TV input when I'm not using it. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to die and then just lose all this progress. So I'll just grind a lot and just make myself super buff. And I got 30 or 40 hours into that game. And I came across one of these Final Fantasy bosses to where it doesn't just kill you. It sucks people's bodies off of the battle screen and into another dimension. And I just horrifyingly watch as my whole party gets swept away and I have no idea what to do with it.
Because it's like Earthquake. You got to be floating or something. You have to have some stupid status thing.
Yeah,
to, get
and
past
so
it.
there was it. That was the end of my time with Final Fantasy IV.
Never to return again.
It's funny.
Because you die and it just takes you back to the last save file.
Right.
Yeah.
I played Final Fantasy V in Japanese. Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Sick,
Yeah.
dude. Street cred.
Street cred.
Jones.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of street cred, it's time for bets. Next week's bet. The Cayo Perico heist launches in Grand Theft Auto Online on December 15th. When this podcast records next week, how many people will be watching Grand Theft Auto Online on Twitch? There are about 97,000 people watching it on Twitch before we did the podcast I sent to the group for reference. Ian Hink.
I forgot to turn on my betting filter. 112K.
Ooh, okay. Michael Huber.
I went low this time. I don't know why. 65,000.
Ooh, dropping.
Yeah.
People
I don't know why. Something about it.
Right.
It's an unorthodox bet, but I was called to this number.
Yeah. It's a calculated team play, I call it. Daniel Bloodworth. With hopefully a very calculated team.
130K.
Nice.
Which I think Ian is probably thinking along the same lines. It'll have a boost, but it's not going to get a huge boost. I think the people that are watching GTA are already watching GTA.
We both got the high. I'm just a little bit above Ian at 115K. Ooh. So we will see how those work out. Last week's bet, Cyberpunk 2077 launched last night. I wanted to know how many times they were going to tweet from @CyberpunkGame between last week and this week. No replies, no retweets. Said it to Huber before we recorded the podcast. Said it to Huber during the podcast. Still forgot. For reference, they tweeted 4 times the day we recorded the podcast. Daniel Bloodworth bet 33. Michael Damiani also bet 33. Michael Huber bet 36. I bet 25. And I won, baby.
25?
27 tweets.
Damn it.
Nice.
They did retweet themselves twice, but no retweets, man. So they didn't tweet from themselves, but happy about that one. Which brings our scores to Jovial Penguins, 20.
I am not a human being. I am an animal. Cold-blooded.
Astonished Scorpions, 18. What? If we double down, well, we
Closing
can't because we don't have the
in.
same.
That's true. Penguins are warm-blooded.
Closing it. That's a good bet, Jones.
So we'll
done.
probably do Aura Wars next week. We'll see who wins this bet. Yeah, Scorpions ain't catching up. And Blood, because you're not gonna be here next week, right? You gonna be here
I'm
next
here.
week? You're
Wake
not?
up.
Okay, you're
He's
up for
here
one
every
more,
time.
but then you're gonna be. Oh no, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You were.
I got confused on
I
that.
did
too.
get
Couldn't-
He's
confused.
not
Could-
taking any off.
Couldn't you win by one if there's technically an episode on the 18th and the 25th?
If we win next week and then we both bet the same thing and that wins.
There's a chance.
All
There's
right.
hope.
So we're winning, though.
So you're saying there's a chance? Yeah,
There's
I
a
said the
chance.
scores. You did the quote.
It's not
I
over.
Let's
don't
move on.
listen. I'm looking at IMDb.
I got horns on my head.
I don't know what's happening.
Let me tell you about patreon.com/easyallies. Patreon.com/easyallies is where you can go to support the Easy Allies. Patreon is how we primarily are supported. It's how we primarily make a living doing what we do. And we have a jolly good time. Ladies and gents, we're getting near the end of this year. We just had the Game Awards. We're thinking about what Goaties we're going to do. Blood and I are both tapped out for reviews. Whoosh, done.
Same.
See ya. Finished.
Same.
almost done, but
Slam
yeah.
dunk.
Yeah. Really wrapping up our shows, really looking ahead at the holidays, making
Who's
holiday
cutting
plans.
Cyberpunk?
And they,
Good question. Why not?
you know what? All right, okay. I'm actually glad I played a little bit of that because both Valhalla and Immortals, I was like, oh, I guess this is the first 5 hours of the game. Oh well, I'll be replaying this. Those cutscenes, I was like, okay, I've already seen this. But it has been an absolutely wonderful year, and we want to thank everybody that listens to this podcast. Thank you so much, but especially our patrons. For just $1, you can get a bunch of exclusive stuff. For $5, you can get this podcast early. Any sort of support that we can get at patreon.com/easyallies, we really appreciate that. Lots of fun exclusives still going. You can get Hunting Huber early, which is a series that's going on right now. You can get Gen That Was early, which is our look back at the Gen That Was. I believe we're up to 2017 is the next episode, correct?
Yep.
That
Might
has yet
be
to
a
air.
week off, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
With the holiday break and stuff, it might be off.
Ben's a little busy. We also have a shout out tier. It is our very tip-top tier at patreon.com/easyallies. And we have some lovely people that I would like to shout out.
Gosh.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm glad Huber doesn't edit the show, because if he edited as well, then he would, be very difficult to listen to. At least I can do a little bit of modulation on his voice. Ian, you're kicking us off. I'm going after him. Huber, you're going third, and then Blood, you're going last. Shout out to Caleb Togi Crawford, Elphanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Jesse Blue, Stephen Thomason, and Nick. Shout out.
Shout out.
That was meditative.
That one felt real good.
It was-
Felt good.
Real good.
We did it.
This has been a heck of a long podcast, folks.
It's been a hell of a long day.
It's been a long day. I'm ready to wrap it up.
More crafty.
I'm ready to go to bed. Oh, wait, I got to cut this thing. I love cutting it. I also love ending the show. I love winning, too. I love all these things. I also love all of you, but not as much as I love winning. I get to promote any Easy Allies video I'd like to promote. I get my final word on anything that I've disagreed with, I want to reiterate, or just popped into my head, and I get to sign off with my trademark sign-off for the first time in a while. I would like to recommend you check out our Cyberpunk 2077 impressions. Daniel Bloodworth talked a little bit about Cyberpunk today, but Ben Moore is reviewing that for us. He is taking as much time as he needs to finish that game, but they did put a lot of hours in and talked about their impressions. Shout out to Don Casanova, who cut that video. It's about 40 minutes of impressions of them chatting about all that stuff. I have not seen it. I do not want to be spoiled. I want to check out that stuff. I will potentially check out those opinions, and I'm sure
We didn't
we will
spoil
be.
things.
I'm sure we'll be talking about. It's just I want to be fresh. But for those of you that might still be on the fence, might be curious about their impressions, specifically knowing those gentlemen and knowing the sweet rigs that they're playing that game on, go check that video out. Here's something that we didn't talk about, and I was thinking about bringing it up. GameSpot gave Cyberpunk 2077 a 7 out of 10, which they completely have the right to do. And a lot of people went after that reviewer for two separate reasons. One, because they didn't like the 7 out of 10, which who cares? And two, they didn't. The reviewer admitted, there was just some stuff in the game that like I didn't do, and they were like, you have to do everything for review. Both of those sentiments are ridiculous. I love 7 out of 10s. I love 2 out of 10s. I love the whole spread of review scores. If I review a game and I see a score that is opposite of mine, that's the review I want to read. I want differing opinions. I want people to express themselves. I play open world games nonstop. That's the last thing you want to do in an open world game is absolutely process everything. My goodness, if I did everything in every open world game I ever played for review, I would still be reviewing the first open world game I ever played. So shout out to GameSpot. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting them. Shout out to everybody that had the difficult task of reviewing Cyberpunk in that short amount of time. Shout out to our patrons as well. Cheers.
Expectations are low and I am hyped.